this quiet place where you don't have to explain yourself. You close the door with the kind of care that has become almost ritual, a practiced movement that honors the threshold between outside obligations and the soft interior of your evening. Your fingers linger on the knob for a moment, feeling the metal cool against the warmth of your palm, and the hallway sounds outside thin to a distant, polite hum. The city still moves beyond the walls, but it feels like someone has turned the volume down. You set your keys in the dish by the door, the small clink reminding you that you have arrived, that you can stay. There is a jacket on the back of a chair by the window, the denim softened at the elbows from years of being a familiar shape. You move it aside and smooth the fabric with the side of your hand. The texture roots you, familiar weight, shoulder memory, the quiet proof of evenings like this. A lamp waits on the table, low and warm, its light spilling over spines of books and a stack of postcards that smell faintly of other people's kitchens and late summer air. You turn the lamp on, and the room rearranges itself into softer edges. Shadows settle into places where you used to worry there might be emptiness, and for tonight they feel like company. Outside, a streetlight leaks through the curtain, painting a long, cautious stripe across the rug. The light doesn't demand anything. It simply lets the room know that the world continues, and that you are allowed to be here, exactly as you are. From the window, you can see a neighbor's apartment across the way. Lighted rectangles where someone is doing something small and ordinary. That knowledge is gentle, a reminder of communal nights, stacked and layered, each dwelling its own archive of small comforts. You move through the apartment like someone rediscovering an old map, fingers along the shelf, tracing the soft gilt of a photo frame, the cool rim of a ceramic mug. On the table, there is a folded letter from a friend who prefers staying up to answer texts late into the night. You don't read it now. Its presence is enough, an anchor. Nearby, a bowl with coins and a stray button seems to hold a quiet gravity. The surfaces here are worn in a way that doesn't feel careless. They carry memory like a piece of clothing that fits without being tight. The kitchen light is off. The air holds the coolness of a settled day. Washed cotton, faint citrus from dish soap. The wood smell of a cutting board. You set a kettle on, and while the water warms, you let yourself notice small domestic sounds. The tiny creak when the apartment shifts with the settling of the building. A far elevator's polite mechanical sigh. The soft patter of rain making itself known somewhere beyond sight. Sound is pared down to comforting details. Nothing is urgent. Nothing asks for an explanation. You pour a drink into a mug with a tiny chip at the rim, a flaw that has somehow become part of its character. You wait, hold the mug between your palms, and feel the warmth travel. The heat is quiet and steady, like a presence that respects the space around it. You take slow sips and let the room organize itself around that small, repeated motion. Each sip becomes a ceremony of return. On the couch, a blanket is folded in the corner, its fabric softened by countless nights wrapped the same way. You pull it across your knees and notice how it molds to the curve of you, how the fibers catch the light and the air. The textile remembers other nights, laughter from a gathering, someone's hair left behind after a late visit, the faint trace of perfume or smoked figs from a shared meal. Those remnants feel ordinary and chosen, a quiet continuity that fills the room without needing explanation. Photographs sit where they have always sat, glimpses of weekends, faces blurred by smiles, a framed ticket stub, a small plant on the windowsill that has learned to thrive on partial attention. Together they make a domestic landscape that assumes you belong. The apartment itself becomes a kind of chosen family. Furniture that remembers how you sit, books open to familiar pages, dishes that know which side of the sink you prefer. This familiarity doesn't announce itself, it simply exists. You move slowly, letting each action take its time. Straightening a cushion, running your fingers along a shelf, setting the mug down where it casts a small crescent shadow. The lampshade softens light into a warm pool instead of a glare. The floor under your bare feet is cool, carrying the evening gently upward. Pipes hum quietly. The building breathes. Corners feel like cradles. Thresholds feel like polite promises. A postcard leans against a stack of vinyl records. A coastline you haven't visited. Handwriting looping across the back with a note about a show, about thinking of you during a quiet moment. You keep it in sight because it feels right. Chosen acquaintances and shared evenings leave their marks like soft constellations. They don't illuminate with brightness. They simply make the dark less empty. Distant sounds drift in. Tires on wet pavement. A step in a stairwell. Someone turning pages nearby. These sounds stitch your room into the larger city without pulling you outward. The city becomes a quilt of routines layered politely together. Through the window, other lamps glow. Private lives unfolding quietly alongside yours. You open a book to a page you once marked. The words rest easily. They don't ask you to act. You trace the margin with a fingertip, then let the book close when the pause feels right. There is no pressure to perform the evening. No checklist waiting. Only small choices you make willingly, like pulling the blanket higher or leaving the lamp set just so. Time stretches without spectacle. Minutes soften, the room cools gently. The lamp's amber deepens. Rain smoothed the city's edges like a hand flattening a page. There is permission here to be simple, to be ordinary. When you lean back, the couch remembers you. The blanket settles heavier. A faint draft carries the smell of rain, warm pavement, something green from a nearby plant. You let the sensations gather without translating them. Warmth, coolness, weight, light, sound. If someone looked in, they would see a room shaped for gentleness. A life arranged for comfort rather than display. Small, deliberate messes. Quiet histories resting in place. You remain there in the soft exchange between body and room, letting the night fold around you. It is private and communal at once. Shared echoes held in familiar walls. Ease that respects your pace. A space that trusts you to know what you need. No one asks for a performance. No one expects explanations. The lamp hums low. The city breathes below. The apartment keeps its quiet watch. Your hands rest. The book stays closed. The mug empties into memory. The room is content to be exactly what it is. A quiet place that holds you, without comment. You stand with the door closed behind you for a long, quiet moment. Not because anything urgent waits outside, but because the pause itself feels necessary. The corridor sounds dim the farther you are from the elevator, and the world you shift out of, the one with bright bodies, small performances, polite smiles, settles at the threshold like a coat. It is not being discarded so much as set aside. You let the silence fill the entryway first, the way a room slowly takes a new temperature after a window is closed. That gentle change is the beginning of something ordinary and almost sacred. The apartment is the same as it always is, and that sameness is welcome. The lamp beside the bookcase throws a soft oval of light across familiar spines and the edge of a jacket tossed over a chair. The jacket has the faint shape of a night out in its fibers, a smell that is more sweat and coffee than anything dramatic, a proof of being somewhere and being counted. You touch the sleeve as if to reassure yourself that the things that have held you through evenings of laughter and quiet are still here, resting where you left them. The fabric is worn in the places that mean you lived a lot, elbows and collars soft and conforming to a body that has been used and loved in ordinary ways. You take off your shoes slowly, toes finding the cool of the wooden floor before the rug warms them again. Bare feet make smaller sounds, a softer footprint. The rug is familiar under your soles, a minor geography of nights spent sitting cross-legged with a friend, of evenings when records played, and someone hummed off-key lines you could not resist joining. There are no photographs that declare anything, no framed pronouncements. Instead, there are small items of allegiance. A postcard from a friend who knows your exact humor. A magnet with a city skyline from the trip you took with the person who always made you try new cafes. A coaster with inked scrawl that reads like one of those inside jokes people from your chosen circles still laugh about. They are anchors, not explanations. You make tea because the kettle is an old comfort ritual that never feels like a task. The water heats and sighs. The steam carries a faint citrus and something clean and herbal. The kettle's whisper is part of the room's language now, meaning nothing dramatic, simply the ordinary warmth of hands around a ceramic cup. The mug is a familiar weight, chipped rim, a smeared glaze, where the dishwasher never quite reaches. You cup it with both hands, and the heat radiates like a small promise. Tonight is for staying, not for performing. Outside, the city moves in soft, patient rhythms. A distant car passes and becomes a smooth, continuous note. An elevator somewhere a few floors away announces itself with a soft chime that you almost notice and then allow to float away. If there is rain, it taps at a window you cannot see. If not, the air still carries a late evening moisture, the kind that smells of pavement warmed earlier in the day. Light from across the street slips through the curtains in gentle strips, making a pattern on the floor that could be anything. Windows mirrored, a sign blinking. The steady glow of an apartment where someone else is going through their own quiet routine. The city does not intrude. It hums the way an old radio hums when the signal is right. You sit on the couch and feel the fabric yield, the same spot that remembers the exact curve of your shoulders. The cushions have their own memory, the slight indentation where you always rest, the soft give that suggests many nights like this. You ease into it without urgency, letting a slow breath match itself to the room. The lamplight pools on the coffee table, touching the corners of objects. A paperback with handwritten notes in the margins, a small tin where loose keys go, a folded note that was meant to be read later. You open the paperback and let your finger trace the edge of a sentence, not to follow the story, but to satisfy the simple pleasure of texture and the knowledge that stories wait when you want them. There is an ease in not explaining why you are here. You do not need to rehearse the self that lives in daylight, or the version that performs politeness when necessary. You can let that shape dissolve like a shadow on a wall when the lamp is low. The quiet invites a different way of being, one that does not require commentary. Without thinking to narrate, you fold a throw across your knees, the fabric soft and known, and let the weight be enough. It is the gentle kind of company that does not speak. It is the background hum of familiarity that steadies the room. A playlist plays somewhere low, songs chosen by hands that remember your taste. Not anything proclaiming identity, but music that feels like coming home after stairs and streetlights. Voices are distant and kind. They do not ask for answers. They are the kind of tracks you have listened to on late trains, on stranger-crowded sidewalks, on nights when leaving meant a small adventure. Now they are simply part of the atmosphere, a quilt of melody that helps the edges of you smooth out. You notice small details in the room with a slow attention. The way the lamp's light warms the grain of the wooden shelf. The quiet tick of a clock, whose sound is more like punctuation than alarm. The mug cools in your hands, and you welcome that slight change as another textural shift. Your fingers brush a stack of postcards, and you pick one up with no plan to send it anywhere tonight. The handwriting is a cursive you associate with someone who knows how to be precise about the little things that matter. Ovens that never do. Quite the same thing twice. Walks that end at midnight with coffee. Jokes that only land after a second try. You set it back down with the care of someone handling a small relic, a relic of belonging. You allow your thoughts to slow in a way that is not deliberate, more like the natural settling of dust in a room closed to quick drafts. Pieces of the day pass by like soft, small images. A laugh shared on a stoop, a message that said only an emoji, the hum of a friend telling you they will see you soon. None of these require unpacking now. They rest as things that are already carried. The need to justify yourself dissolves when you realize that there is no audience here, only things that have been chosen and left in their places because they are enough. Lighting dims at the edge of perception. Your eyes blink to let the world soften. The sounds of the city become softer still, a lullaby without direction. There is no push to make an announcement of peace or belonging. Instead, it is the steady accumulation of tiny, safe certainties, the warmth of a blanket, the weight of a mug, the way the couch fits you, the presence of small tokens that mean someone else has thought of you and left their mark. You do not catalog these for proof. You feel them as a slow consolidation of home. You breathe and notice the rhythm of your chest aligning with the room. There is a softness to the evening that seems to cradle the shape of you, not because you have earned it or deserve it, but because belonging is often a small arrangement of ordinary things that notice you. The silence is not empty, it is full of the low sounds of life at rest. You stay, content with the uncomplicated company of your own presence and the objects around you that have been selected exactly because they are familiar and kind. Here, in the low light and the steady hush, you do not have to explain. You can simply be the one who returns home at night and lets the silence replace the version of yourself you use outside, with nothing missing and nothing to announce. The lamp throws a soft oval of light across the low table, the edges of the pool feathering into the cloth. Outside, the city keeps its slow, patient noises, far traffic breathing in long, dim rhythms, an elevator chiming twice and then nothing, a neighbor washing their hands of the day somewhere up the hall, rain taps in small, random patterns against the window where the curtains do not fully meet, a thread of streetlight slipping in and pooling on the glass. The room is a place you have arranged for gentle evenings, not for performance, and the objects here know that. They sit without explanation, their histories folded into the patina of use. You move slowly, the way you do when you are taking stock rather than searching. Your fingers brush the back of a chair and feel the familiar give of the denim jacket draped there, its elbow frayed, where a hand has rested many nights. The fabric smells faintly of days spent outdoors and of your body, a comfortable scent that does not demand stories. You lift the jacket to smooth it, the motion small and private. It is enough that it is there, an available warmth if you want it, a presence that has never needed to be introduced. On the low shelf, books are arranged by the simple, domestic logic you prefer. Some are stacked by size, others by the way the spine catches the lamp's light. There is a notebook with a soft cover where you once wrote down the names of places that felt like home. A list now, more for the hand than the eyes. A pencil mark at the corner lingers from an old habit. You touch it with a fingertip, and the pages shift under your palm with a paper-sized sound that is nearly inaudible. The sound belongs to the room as much as the creak the floor makes when someone crosses the threshold. Small noises act like punctuation here, gentle and expected. A mug sits near the lamp, a thin trace of warmth having dulled the glaze where fingers usually rest. It holds no explanation, only the memory of tea, cooled to the right temperature, of late-night sips taken while reading or scrolling through messages from chosen family, small exchanges that loop back and settle like soft light. A coaster rests beneath it, an unremarked token, from a long-ago night out, its edges worn smooth and its lettering nearly gone. You like the way these things remain, quiet witnesses to ordinary evenings, and to the quieter ones that were once necessary, but are no longer urgent. The couch is an assembly of textures, upholstery that yields without sinking, A throw folded and refolded until the fabric remembers the shapes that sit on it. You lean back and feel the steady support beneath your shoulder blades. The blanket across your knees is heavy in the way that counts, not a burden, but a reminder that warmth can be shared with inert things, that comfort does not always need to be requested. The air carries the faint scent of cotton and wood and the softened freshness of the city after rain. It is a smell you have learned to read as reassurance, like a point on a map that tells you it is safe to stay. There are small pieces here that once insisted on significance and now simply belong. A folded program from a show you loved rests in a drawer alongside scattered coins and a pen that has never been completely empty. A photograph leans against a stack of records, faces caught laughing in a doorway you know well. The faces are not names to be explained. They are gestures of the life you have shaped. The image holds the quiet of a night when you stayed out later, then planned and came home with pockets full of light and voice. You rest your palm on the frame and feel the glass cool beneath your skin. That cool is enough. You notice the repairs around the room, places where something once broke and was mended without fuss. A lampshade stitched at one seam with thread that does not match. A chair leg reinforced with tape, hidden beneath the hem of a rug. These fixes form the architecture of a life that continues rather than perfects itself. They say softly that things survive, hands that care in practical ways, rather than declarations. The room becomes an archive of patient, mundane kindnesses, the kind that sit quietly on shelves and return to you during nights when being gently tended is all you need. Light arrives here in layers. The lamp is warm and deliberate, while the window holds a cooler presence at the edges. Streetlight sketches the silhouette of a plant by the sill, its leaves dark and soft against the glass. Reflections from a neighbor's window move faintly across the ceiling like a distant tide. Shadows feel familiar, not empty. You do not search for meaning in them. You accept them as texture, as elements that simply exist. You walk the short path from table to window, fingertips finding smooth wood, the edge of a shelf, the cool circle of glass. Outside, shapes blur under rain, lights softened where they used to be sharp. The city dissolves into watercolor sound. A low bus passes. Someone laughs across the block and then stops. A door closes somewhere far away. These noises arrive and fade without consequence. You feel connected to them without obligation. On the mantel sits a candle, in a ceramic vessel, its wick trimmed long ago. It has been lit and set aside so many times that rings of wax mark its surface like a small map. Lighting it would change the room, but you do not feel the need. You like it as it is. An artifact of intention that does not require enactment. Meaning can exist without performance. Small sounds continue to mark the room. Pipes settle with a patient groan. A radiator ticks and releases heat. A neighbor's music drifts in and out. The floor creaks near the kitchen, no longer a flaw but a familiar marker that helps you orient yourself. The acoustics here are intimate. Nothing is amplified. Nothing is sharp. Sounds fold together like soft fabric. You take a slow breath and feel the rhythm of a night you have learned how to keep. There is no need to explain the objects gathered here. Things that once asked for meaning now offer comfort without demand. A coaster, a ticket stub, a jacket, a mug. Each holds steadiness in small form. The quiet language of days lived with chosen people and alone in equal measure. The night continues around the apartment, not intruding but accompanying. Rain softens against the sill. The streetlight shifts its pale hand. Your fingers close around the edge of the book you had been reading earlier, its weight in your lap enough. You do not need to name what anything once meant. The room holds its contents without insistence. And in that holding, you find permission to be ordinary, private, and complete. You ease the door shut behind you, and the sound folds into the room, small and familiar, like the last line of a song you have learned by heart. The hallway noise stays distant, softened by the building's skin, and the apartment greets you as it always does. The low lamp by the bookshelf already on, throwing a round of light across well-thumbed spines, and a small stack of postcards whose edges have softened from being handled. The chair by the window has a jacket draped over it, an outline that reads like a person who was here earlier, who laughed, who left an extra mug in the sink. The jacket catches the streetlight in a way that makes the fabric look almost luminous at the collar. You run a thumb along its sleeve, without needing to decide why, and the cotton feels warm in a way that is easy to trust. Outside, the city keeps to its distant rhythm. A car passes, and the tires whisper on wet pavement. A late elevator chime sounds 2 floors down, and then another, a small confirmation that elsewhere, people are moving through their own quiet nights. The rain that began hours ago is now a soft punctuation against the metal fire escape, a rhythm that is both irregular and soothing, a percussion that helps the room settle into its own heartbeat. The curtains let in a thin seam of streetlight, pale and amber, painting a gentle line across the rug, across a pair of worn denim folded on the arm of the sofa. The denim has softened around the knees, the color faded into parts that tell stories without telling a single one. You notice the small things first, the ones that matter because they have been consistent. The coasters with paint still drying on them from a night when someone wanted to try a new color. The chipped mug on the shelf, where a friend set it down months ago and never reclaimed it, because it seemed to belong among the others. A photograph taped lightly to the inside of a cupboard door. A quick, candid shot of a group of people on a rooftop. Faces half-shadowed, arms around one another. The skyline folded into the background. The image is ordinary and precious. It is part of the furniture of the apartment in the way a favorite throw becomes part of the chair it drapes. Texture anchors the room. Your feet find the rug, and the fibers give under your soles. The wood table is cool where you set down a cup, its edges smoothed by years of rest, of keys and coins and pens. The lamp makes a pool of gold that feels like an invitation to be still. You touch the spine of a book, the paper slightly grainy, the corners softened by fingers that have turned them before. The ceramic mug you lift holds the warmth of tea you steeped earlier, steam rising slowly before ebbing, the scent of citrus and something herbal threading through the night air. There is a softness to the room that does not demand anything from you. It simply holds the space you occupy, and that is enough. Memory moves through the apartment like a gentle current. You remember an evening when the cushions were on the floor, and you and a few chosen people made a small nest of textiles and laughter until late. You remember a winter when the heater rattled and a friend brought over soup and stayed just long enough to leave a warmth that lingered for days. You remember nights when you sat at the window, watching other apartments breathe light and dark, feeling a kinship with the pattern of lamps switching on and off. Those nights are folded into the rooms that have seen you, the one who was tentative, the one who was bold for a few afternoons, the one who came home quietly and read a poem aloud to no one. The room has seen versions of you that no one else needs to catalog. It keeps them without comment. The sounds are small and layered. Pipes settle in the walls like an old clock, adjusting to the hour. A neighbor's radio hums at a level that is a suggestion rather than an interruption. Rain shifts from heavier to lighter, sometimes gathering on the window pane and running in thin, steady lines. You reach out and touch the glass, cool against your fingertips, reflecting a softened double of the lamp and the jacket and the corner of a poster you have had since a move 3 summers ago. The poster's colors are muted now, but it fits the wall the way a story fits a life. Edges a little frayed, sentiment intact. There is a rhythm to preparing the apartment for the night that you have refined into a quiet ritual. You fold the denim just so, tuck the jacket back onto the chair without smoothing it into perfection. You set the mug on the table, not out of formality, but because its place feels right and grounds the small square of evening. The blanket on the sofa is weighted in the center, where it has been used, textured by repeated folds. You pull it up around your legs, and the weight is familiar. A gentle pressure that nudges the shoulders to loosen. The fabric smells faintly of a laundry detergent you began buying after discovering it at a gathering. The scent carrying memories of kitchen table conversations that blurred into morning, about small things and large things, with pauses that felt comfortable rather than strained. You do not need to prove anything in this room. Objects carry evidence of a life shared, and a life kept private, side by side. A spare toothbrush in the drawer, a set of keys in the bowl by the door, a folded note from someone who checked in that week. Tiny markers of belonging, each unremarkable until it is absent. The apartment's contours have learned to fit you, and you have learned to move through them without explanation. The walls have absorbed the shape of your days, the times you danced alone in the kitchen, the nights you read under the lamp until the words blurred, the afternoons you fell into long conversations with, people who feel like family without needing paperwork to confirm it. After a while, the cat arrives, as cats do, when they decide a human is exactly where they would like to be. It slips in from the hallway with a softness that makes no sound until it is already there, perched on the armrest, all stillness and attentive eyes. It asks nothing, settles into a curved shape that mirrors the edge of the blanket. The fur absorbs the lamp's warmth and returns it as a low, living heat. You sense the presence more than seek it. You move your hand slowly, knowing the preference for gentleness, and rest your fingers on its back, where the fur is dense and warm. The cat makes no demand, only acknowledges the company and resumes its soft, contented breathing. The night keeps its pace, unhurried and unintrusive. Light pools and then thins. Street sounds slip further into the background. The apartment becomes a private geography of small lights and familiar objects: the lamp, the coat on the chair, the mug drying on the counter, the photograph taped inside the cupboard. In these details, there is a steady message. You are allowed to be as you are. You are allowed to linger over small tasks, to fold clothes slowly, to stare at a page without finishing the sentence. The room requires no performance. It offers a company that is soft and persistent, like the cat returning again to curl more snugly, as if to say it understands how nights should be respected. You let your breath follow a gentle pattern, long and even. The warmth of the blanket settles like a familiar hand. Outside, the rain softens into a drizzle that makes the streetlight bleed into the window, glass. Inside, the lamp keeps its small watch. You move through the room with an intimacy that needs no grand gestures, only the ordinary acts of making a place livable, of returning to small, beloved things. The night belongs to you for now, quietly, without asking for proof, and the apartment holds that, belonging without fuss, with a steady, unspoken welcome that makes it easy to simply be. You are in the part of the night that feels like a small, private room inside a larger city. The windows keep a faint memory of the streetlight, a wash of amber that slides along the sill and pools on the floorboards, warming the grain without asking anything of you. The curtain moves once, a slow sigh, as the building settles, and the sound folds into the quiet that lives in the walls. It is the kind of quiet that knows the shape of your days, one that recognizes the jacket on the chair, the scuffed shoes by the door, the way a book is left open face down like a sign that reading mattered earlier, and might again. The apartment is lit by a single lamp with a soft bulb, the light bending around the spines of books and the edges of photographs. There is a photo on the shelf with the corner slightly bent, the kind of picture that keeps a place without demanding to be looked at. You can tell from the way it leans that it has been handled the same way many evenings. Picked up, turned, set back, with a small smile, kept somewhere private. A small enamel pin rests on the rim of a mug, a quiet arc of color that you have worn sometimes on coats, and sometimes simply kept there because it feels like a secret companion. It does its job by just existing, by adding a small, unspoken yes to the room. Your body is used to these late hours. It no longer vibrates with the shape of the day, but sits like a hand in a warm pocket. Your shoulders know the outline of the couch. The upholstery remembers the curve of you. The blanket draped over the back has a familiar weight, the kind that comes from many nights of being shifted and smoothed and let lie. When you fold it around your knees, the fabric fits in ways that furniture does when it has accepted the people who live in it. The cotton is soft in a language it has developed with your skin. You notice the small contrast between the cool of the window glass and the warmth of the lamp, and it feels like an ordinary private trade that the apartment has arranged for you. There is a faint, steady sound coming from the building, a distant elevator pausing, a neighbor's radiator gently easing into its own rhythm, the pipes making tiny decisions about temperature. Rain taps somewhere beyond the view, a pattern that pauses, then comments again with a softer hand. The sound is not shaped into a story, it is texture. It is a soft punctuation to the passage of your thoughts, the kind that lets sentences hang without needing to be finished. When you turn your wrist, you feel the cool edge of a glass on the coffee table, the ceramic rim, worn smooth by years of use, and by being held in hands that have told and listened to small, important things. You let your attention move like a slow, careful finger across the room. The lamp casts long, forgiving shadows that make pockets of dim. Where a plant leans toward light it does not need. The plant's leaves have that slight gloss of life that comes from being watered sometimes and ignored sometimes, which is to say, loved according to the rhythms you know. A record sleeve sits on the shelf, an image softened at the edges. The music has already been played earlier, the last notes settling into the fabric of the chair, the smell of something warm and clean, linen, the faint musk of worn denim, the hint of citrus from the soap you prefer, makes the air feel domesticated in a gentle way. Nothing insists, nothing asks for an explanation. A postcard is tucked into the spine of a book you keep, for evenings like this. The handwriting is tilted and familiar in a way that does not require you to compare it to anything. The words on it are small fragments of nights that belong to other people as much as to you. A laugh held too long, a toast made in a corner where the light was forgiving. You turn it over and run a fingertip along the edge, feeling the paper's slight roughness. Those nights exist in the apartment the way a shadow rests near the door, present and unassuming. They remind you that belonging is not a single event, but a collection of small, habitual moments that gather and hold. When you move, the motion is slow and careful. You slide your palm across the arm of the couch and feel the fabric's familiar give, the way it has softened exactly to the right point. The wood of the coffee table is cool beneath your elbow, the grain smooth and patient. You rest your head back and let the lamplight settle over your face like a warm hand that does not push. In the corner of the room, a string of tiny lights that someone gifted you years ago glows like a soft memory. They are not for decoration as much as for comfort, puncturing the dark with gentle, unassertive dots that are easy to keep company with. Outside, the city keeps its steady, distant hum. A car moves through an intersection below, and the sound rolls up like a slow breath. The noise is far enough away that it is more idea than event, a reminder of lives continuing in muted ways. The window throws back faint reflections of neighboring windows, small rectangles of other people's possibly identical rooms. And you imagine, without needing to know, that somewhere else a light is on, over someone else's late cup of tea. There is a soft solidarity in that. a sense that night is being shared without conversation. It is an unspoken neighborhood of rest. You remember an evening years before when a friend left their jacket over this same chair, and it still looks like a vestige of company. There are subtle signs that this place has been lived in by more than you. A pair of keys you borrowed and forgot to return. A kitchen towel with a faint lipstick mark from a night of laughter. A candle that smells like cedar and has been burned down to the jar rim. These objects keep the room kind in their small ways. They are like a chosen family's fingerprints, not insisting on attention, but there to touch if you ever want to. Your hands find the book by habit, and you turn the page slowly. Not because you are trying to read so much as to keep your fingers busy in a gentle, precise way. The paper whispers. Language appears and then unfurls, but the sentences do not demand comprehension. They drift like the light that falls through the curtain, soft and amber. You notice how the stories you once told yourself about needing more noise have shrunk with time into the quieter knowledge that a comfortable night can be enough. This knowing is quiet and patient, like the lamp that stays lit because it believes in small things. There is no urgency in the apartment. The calendar hangs with months that have been crossed off in uneven human strokes. The marks are not tidy, they are honest. They keep a kind of rhythm that does not chase you. You tuck the blanket a little closer, feeling its texture brush against your knee. The faint pilling, the way the weight announces itself as a presence rather than a command. The blanket is an old, reliable thing that has absorbed the smell of the room and returned it into the evenings when you want it. It does not demand gratitude. It is simply companionable fabric. Your thoughts drift to friends who are likely doing their own versions of this same slow routine. Perhaps someone is on the other side of the city, washing dishes and humming a song. Perhaps another is on a rooftop watching the rain. The thought is pleasant and unobtrusive. It does not require messaging or arranging. It is a quiet comfort to imagine a circle that is wide and permissive, where presence is a thing you can keep without constant reaffirmation. You look at the clock, note the hour, with a soft curiosity, and then let it be a detail, like the texture of the pillow or the way the radiator breathes. Time here has a softer edge. It is not a deadline, but a companion that has learned to move with you at its own slow pace. The light in the lamp seems to steady with you, as if matching the tilt of your head and the length of your sigh. Everything in the room conspires toward gentle continuity. The lamp, the blanket, the book, with the postcard tucked inside, the jacket waiting on the chair. You are given the small, unremarkable gift of a night kept simply because it is yours. The city continues to breathe beyond the glass. Rain taps its quiet rhythm, and the lamp writes slow shadows across the room. You find the softness in the evening as if it were a fabric to be touched, and in touching it, you learn again the ease of being here, allowed to be exactly as you are without explanation. You are in the part of the night that feels like a small private room inside a larger city. The windows keep a faint memory of the streetlight, a wash of amber that slides along the sill and pools on the floorboards, warming the grain without asking anything of you. The curtain moves once, a slow sigh as the building settles, and the sound folds into the quiet that lives in the walls. It is the kind of quiet that knows the shape of your days, one that recognizes the jacket on the chair, the scuffed shoes by the door, the way a book is left open, face down, like a sign that reading mattered earlier and might again. The apartment is lit by a single lamp with a soft bulb, the light bending around the spines of books and the edges of photographs. There is a photo on the shelf, with the corner slightly bent, the kind of picture that keeps a place without demanding to be looked at. You can tell from the way it leans that it has been handled the same way many evenings. Picked up, turned, set back with a small smile, kept somewhere private. A small enamel pin rests on the rim of a mug, a quiet arc of color that you have worn sometimes on coats, and sometimes simply kept there because it feels like a secret companion. It does its job by just existing, by adding a small, unspoken yes to the room. Your body is used to these late hours. It no longer vibrates with the shape of the day, but sits like a hand in a warm pocket. Your shoulders know the outline of the couch. The upholstery remembers the curve of you. The blanket draped over the back has a familiar weight, the kind that comes from many nights of being shifted and smoothed and let lie. When you fold it around your knees, the fabric fits in ways that furniture does when it has accepted the people who live in it. The cotton is soft in the language it has developed with your skin. You notice the small contrast between the cool of the window glass and the warmth of the lamp, and it feels like an ordinary, private trade that the apartment has arranged for you. There is a faint, steady sound coming from the building, a distant elevator pausing, a neighbor's radiator gently easing into its own rhythm, the pipes making tiny decisions about temperature. Rain taps somewhere beyond the view, a pattern that pauses, then comments again with a softer hand. The sound is not shaped into a story. It is texture. It is a soft punctuation to the passage of your thoughts, the kind that lets sentences hang without needing to be finished. When you turn your wrist, you feel the cool edge of a glass on the coffee table, the ceramic rim worn smooth by years of use and by being held in hands that have told and listened to small, important things. You let your attention move like a slow, careful finger across the room. The lamp casts long, forgiving shadows that make pockets of dim where a plant leans toward light it does not need. The plant's leaves have that slight gloss of life that comes from being watered sometimes and ignored sometimes, which is to say, loved according to the rhythms you know. A record sleeve sits on the shelf, an image softened at the edges. The music has already been played earlier, the last note settling into the fabric of the chair. The smell of something warm and clean, linen, the faint musk of worn denim, the hint of citrus from the soap you prefer, makes the air feel domesticated in a gentle way. Nothing insists, nothing asks for an explanation. A postcard is tucked into the spine of a book you keep for evenings like this. The handwriting is tilted and familiar in a way that does not require you to compare it to anything. The words on it are small fragments of nights that belong to other people as much as to you. A laugh held too long, a toast made in a corner where the light was forgiving. You turn it over and run a fingertip along the edge, feeling the paper's slight roughness. Those nights exist in the apartment the way a shadow rests near the door, present and unassuming. They remind you that belonging is not a single event, but a collection of small, habitual moments that gather and hold. When you move, the motion is slow and careful. You slide your palm across the arm of the couch and feel the fabric's familiar give, the way it has softened exactly to the right point. The wood of the coffee table is cool beneath your elbow, the grain smooth and patient. You rest your head back and let the lamplight settle over your face like a warm hand that does not push. In the corner of the room, a string of tiny lights that someone gifted you years ago glows like a soft memory. They are not for decoration as much as for comfort, puncturing the dark with gentle, unassertive dots that are easy to keep company with. Outside, the city keeps its steady, distant hum. A car moves through an intersection below, and the sound rolls up like a slow breath. The noise is far enough away that it is more idea than event, a reminder of lives continuing in muted ways. The window throws back faint reflections of neighboring windows, small rectangles of other people's possibly identical rooms, and you imagine, without needing to know, that somewhere else a light is on over someone else's late cup of tea. There is a soft solidarity in that, a sense that night is being shared without conversation. It is an unspoken neighborhood of rest. You remember an evening years before when a friend left their jacket over this same chair, and it still looks like a vestige of company. There are subtle signs that this place has been lived in by more than you. A pair of keys you borrowed and forgot to return. A kitchen towel with a faint lipstick mark from a night of laughter. A candle that smells like cedar and has been burned down to the jar rim. These objects keep the room kind in their small ways. They are like a chosen family's fingerprints, not insisting on attention, but there to touch if you ever want to. Your hands find the book by habit, and you turn the page slowly. Not because you are trying to read so much as to keep your fingers busy in a gentle, precise way. The paper whispers, language appears, and then unfurls. But the sentences do not demand comprehension. They drift like the light that falls through the curtain, soft and amber. You notice how the stories you once told yourself about needing more noise have shrunk with time into the quieter knowledge that a comfortable night can be enough. This knowing is quiet and patient, like the lamp that stays lit, because it believes in small things. There is no urgency in the apartment. The calendar hangs with months that have been crossed off in uneven, human strokes. The marks are not tidy, they are honest. They keep a kind of rhythm that does not chase you. You tuck the blanket a little closer, feeling its texture brush against your knee, the faint pilling, the way the weight announces itself as a presence rather than a command. The blanket is an old, reliable thing that has absorbed the smell of the room and returned it in the evenings when you want it. It does not demand gratitude, it is simply companionable fabric. Your thoughts drift to friends who are likely doing their own versions of this same slow routine. Perhaps someone is on the other side of the city washing dishes and humming a song. Perhaps another is on a rooftop watching the rain. The thought is pleasant and unobtrusive. It does not require messaging or arranging. It is a quiet comfort to imagine a circle that is wide and permissive, where presence is a thing you can keep without constant reaffirmation. You look at the clock, note the hour with a soft curiosity, and then let it be a detail, like the texture of the pillow or the way the radiator breathes. Time here has a softer edge. It is not a deadline, but a companion that has learned to move with you at its own slow pace. The light in the lamp seems to steady with you, as if matching the tilt of your head and the length of your sigh. Everything in the room conspires toward gentle continuity. The lamp, the blanket, the book with the postcard tucked inside, the jacket waiting on the chair. You are given the small, unremarkable gift of a night kept simply because it is yours. The city continues to breathe beyond the glass. Rain taps its quiet rhythm, and the lamp writes slow shadows across the room. You find the softness in the evening, as if it were a fabric to be touched. And in touching it, you learn again the ease of being here, allowed to be exactly as you are without explanation. The room holds its usual hush, the kind that arrives after plates have been cleared, and laughter has thinned to a memory you can feel more than hear. You stand with one hand on the back of a chair, where a jacket has been left. The denim softened at the elbows, the cuff that always frays in the same place. The city keeps moving beyond the curtains, but it moves without you for now, like a river flowing around a small island where you have chosen to stay. Streetlight filters through thin fabric, a warm band that makes patterns on the floor. The light is patient, not demanding, and it seems to know you already. From somewhere down the hall, a soft clang, an elevator's quiet arrival. Farther away, a hum that might be a late bus, the kind that sounds like a low, approving voice. Rain taps at an unseen surface, intermittent and close enough to imagine, like fingers at a window you could reach for if you wanted to. The building seems to breathe, the old pipes sighing and settling. You notice the little sounds as if they were made on purpose for you, each one a small punctuation in an evening that doesn't require anything of you. On the low shelf near the lamp, a row of books leans in a friendly way, spine softened by being picked up and returned. A postcard stands propped against a small ceramic bowl. You use for keys on good nights, the handwriting at an angle that makes the word hello feel private. There is a photograph tucked between two paperbacks, a moment when the light was different and everything else felt the same. A group of shoulders, the curve of someone's laugh caught at its best. You do not need to reread it all. Its presence is enough. It is a quiet archive of evenings like this, of people who have dropped by and left their warmth behind, in the shape of a coaster or a borrowed scarf. You sink down into the chair, and the fabric remembers you. It gives at the right places, wraps you in a slightly familiar warmth. The upholstery little ridges of comfort. Your fingers find the ceramic mug on the side table. It holds a small warmth from a late cooling tea, the glaze slightly rough under your thumb. You trace the rim with the pad of a finger, noticing the way heat travels through porcelain. The scent of citrus and something herbal lifts, clean and domestic. Nearby, a lamp pools light across a small stack of records and a newspaper folded precisely in half. The margin notes you made once, soft pencil lines that could be from an age ago, read like small private gestures. The air in the room is cool enough to be awake, but tender enough to coax the shoulders down a fraction. The curtains shiver when a breeze moves down the block, bringing with it the faint freshness of rain-soaked pavement, and the warmer, heavier scent of somebody's cooking 2 floors up. You breathe and don't do anything with that breath except feel it move in and out, slow as evening. The cloth of the jacket on the chair presses against your knuckles, and the threadbare place where your thumb always rests is a small map of past nights. There is a playlist paused at the halfway point on the speaker, and in that suspended place, the music is present without pushing. Its low notes are a familiar skin, something you could resume at any time, but you do not. You like the idea of it waiting, like a friend on the couch in the other room, who understands silence. Nearby, a bandana with a fold of color peeks out from beneath a paperback, its fabric soft from being handled and tucked away in pockets. You remember borrowing it once, or maybe lending it. The memory is diffuse and comfortable, a kind of quiet proof that you belong in the small exchanges that make up a chosen life. The night outside continues. Voices pass like a train of light through the slats of the blinds. Laughter on the corner. The precise murmur of a doorknob turned gently. A couple of doors down, the landings carry a music of keys and soft shoes, of people getting settled into their own pockets of home. None of it asks you to move. The city's momentum is steady, a background tide that keeps everything in gentle motion. You let it be, a distant soundtrack to a room designed for staying. After a while, a small presence slides into the scene. At first, it is only a shadow, a darker shape moving along the baseboard, as if the room had a second, softer heartbeat. Then, with no fuss, a cat appears and pads across the rug, its paws barely making a sound. It is not yours, entirely, or perhaps it is in a way that matters only to the night. It circles once around the chair, investigates the crook of your knee, then settles with exacting care on the ottoman beside you. It curls into itself in a way that suggests it has been given permission to be here and knows instinctively how to take up the least amount of space while offering the most warmth. There is a small, steady vibration, a purr that blends with the rain's distant tapping, and it feels like a private instrument tuned to the room. The cat's fur is cool under your palm, fine as a well-worn scarf. You stroke it once, gently, not because there is anything to be done, but because the action itself is quite company. The animal moves against your hand like a soft answer, the kind that does not demand back. It is content to be present as the light shifts, as the lamp casts a longer shadow, as the streetlight throws its bar of gold across the floor and into the corner where books pile in a small, companionable mess. You notice the little things more easily with the cat there. The sound of its whiskers, the delicate step of its paws, the way it rearranges the air around it simply by being. Your attention has room to wander. There is a sweater folded on the bed that smells faintly of someone who stopped by that afternoon, an aftertaste of cologne and coffee. A pair of shoes waits quietly by the door, aligned like sentries who do not judge. You set the mug down on a coaster with a small ring on it and feel the soft thud of porcelain meeting wood. The table is warm from having been used, the grain of it polished by years of hands. These objects are not showpieces. They are companions. They hold no expectations, only history, in the form of smudges, small dents, and of the pattern of where things usually live. Outside, rain turns the street into a watercolor, reflections running like soft thoughts. The glow from neighboring windows makes a collage of small domestic lives, each window an invitation that does not require an answer. In this room, there is enough light to read by, but not enough to keep the quiet at bay. Shadows bend into shapes that feel like memories you can touch. The air smells of clean cotton and the faint sweet edge of something woodsy, like a new cutting board or the frame of a bookcase. You sit in that smell and let it settle, like a blanket drawn up to the chin. Time here is not the kind measured by clocks. It is the kind measured by moments of stillness, by the length of a breath, by the way someone else's laughter echoes in a photograph. You are allowed to occupy the night without participating. The world keeps moving, warm and distant, and you remain inside this small, exact sphere of light and quiet. The cat breathes evenly, a soft presence against the day's residue. The lamp hums its familiar glow. The rain taps a rhythm that does not demand a response. You listen and rest in the fact that the outside can go on without you, and that this is exactly how it should be, a gentle permission that needs no explanation. You sit with the lamp low, a quiet pool of light that lands on a stack of books and the collar of a jacket draped over the back of a chair. The city beyond the window keeps its distance, a low, patient hum that becomes a kind of breathing. You can match if you want. Memories come like minor weather, a soft mist that moves through the room without demanding anything, curious and gentle. They pass by, glance at the sofa where you folded a blanket earlier, and continue on, leaving the air a little richer for their presence. A postcard leans against a hardcover, the handwriting familiar in the way that a certain cadence in a friend's voice is familiar. You remember the late summer night when it was picked up, the music folded into the street, shoes tapping on wet pavement. The memory does not push, it simply stands near the lamp, visible in the way a reflection catches a corner of your eye. You watch it as if it were a small bird landing on the sill, quiet and unafraid. It feels possible to let it stay as long as it likes, and also to watch it go. A coat hangs like a sentinel, shoulder softened where a person once leaned into it. The fabric bears a faint perfume of someone you used to share a couch with for movies and long, easy conversations. Not every memory here needs to be big. Some are small things. The way a mug warmed your palms on a rainy morning, the exact texture of a scarf unraveling at the edge, a playlist that always found its way back to you at 2 a.m. Those little recollections drift in and out like moths around a lamp, present without urgency. Outside, an elevator chime sounds far below, a single kind note that says the building is awake in small ways, and then settles. Pipes click in the walls, the kind of sound that used to unsettle you, until you learn to recognize it as the house settling into itself. Now those noises feel companionable, like the low contact of other lives existing in the same vertical way, each one tending their own quiet. The rain somewhere near the city stutters and then hushes, a delicate percussion that traces the window pane in thin, clean lines. It is a sound that invites memory without calling for confession. You let the photographs on the shelf breathe. Each one is an island, a laugh caught mid-sway, a pair of shoes on a park bench, a hand partially cropped out of the frame because it moved too soon. There is comfort in how the images refuse to demand definition. They hold a life you know intimately, but never feel obliged to explain. The images feel almost like neighbors. You do not need to open them and put names to every face. They are simply there, traces of living that say you have been present and that presence was noticed. The lamp throws soft shadows across the worn upholstery. The blanket you folded earlier has the faint imprint of nights spent in conversation, the weight of a body that once leaned into you and then left without drama. Memory touches that blanket like a fingertip, remembering the outline of warmth rather than insisting on the details. You can feel the fabric under your hand, the familiar tug where a seam has begun to loosen. There is a kind of domestic holiness to these small imperfections. They say you have been here before and that the place has the right to keep a record. You move through the room slowly, not to tidy or fix, but to make space. A glass sits on the table, cool from the late water you took. The condensation rings the wood faintly, and suddenly you are back at a kitchen counter, where someone told a story too long and everyone let it finish. That memory is soft-edged, laughter without the sharpness of recollection, voices layered like light. It holds warmth but no insistence. It leaves room for silence to return and be welcome. There is a playlist bookmarked on your phone, the one you open when the night is quiet enough to listen properly. You do not press play. You allow the idea of sound to move through you instead. The idea carries traces of a club's after-hours glow, of neon reflected in a puddle, of conversations folded over each other and ending in shared smiles. These are not scenes you narrate to yourself like evidence. They come as a feeling of having inhabited spaces with people who saw you in passing and in staying. And that recognition is its own gentle warmth. A mug sits on the sill, the glaze chipped where your fingers tend to catch. You remember where it came from, a market 2 neighborhoods over, a chosen companion who insisted you take it because it fit your hand. The memory arrives like someone knocking on the door and waiting on the stoop. It doesn't come in. You can open for it if you like, or you can watch it lean against the doorframe and then walk away. Either way is allowed. Light plays on the curtains, a strip of street lamp that passes slowly across the fabric like a slow breath. The room is a map of previous nights, each item a waypoint. There is no pressure for you to make these memories into a narrative. They are as diffuse as the glow at the window, soft, partial, exact in the way only small details can be. A thread from a sweater, a smudge on a book jacket, the faint scent of citrus from a soap someone used and left the bottle of on your sink. They are all quiet testimonies to a life that is not tidy, that does not need to be. You stand at the window, palms on the cool glass. The street below has fewer cars now, lights wobbling like distant planets. A bus passes, and the momentary illumination throws silhouettes in neighboring windows. Someone else pausing in their own small ritual, a domestic echo. There is nothing to solve here. The city is simply a soft accompaniment, an anonymous chorus that has learned your cadence and tucks itself beneath your words. The memory of a hand that used to rest on your knee in a dark room rises and then dims like a candle extended and then sheltered. You do not hold it tightly. You watch it shape itself against the light for a moment and then recede into the room. Memories are not guests who must be coaxed or banished. They are visitors who may choose to linger. Their presence is not a burden, but a kind of visiting card left on the table, a claim that you have been seen. At the edge of your vision, the couch cushions keep their imprint of countless evenings. A throw pillow bears a faded mark, an accidental spill that you never bothered to erase because it felt like the right kind of imperfection. This room remembers you not as a person to be judged, but as a body that has been here, again and again, taking up space in a quiet, ordinary way. You can feel that remembering as a kind of allowance, You return to the chair, to the lamp, to the postcard. Outside, the rain resumes with a softer hand, a small, steady rhythm like fingertips on a wooden table. In the hush, the memories become more like light drafts of air passing, present, uninsistent. They do not ask you to explain or perform. They are content to be seen and to see you, to live briefly in the same room and then make room for the next quiet moment. The night provides a steady modesty, folding in the corners where thought might otherwise sharpen. You let your hands rest on your lap, and the world narrows to the warmth of fabric and the faint sound of water against the glass. Memories flow through without asking to stay, gentle and respectful, like familiar faces glancing in a window as they pass. You do not need to hold them. You do not need to let them go. You simply allow them the courtesy of being, and the room allows you the same. You move through the apartment the way someone moves through a room they have loved for years. The motions practiced enough to be nearly without thought, but never mechanical. Keys are set down in the same bowl, a small, shallow dish that has the faint ring of many nights of coins and rings and loose change. The coat goes over the back of the same chair, its collar folded in a particular way, because that is how you like it. And the chair remembers the shape of you. The lamp by the sofa clicks on, not bright but full-bodied, a warm circle that gathers the books and the soft edges of the cushions into a familiar island of light. There is comfort in repetition that arrives without strain. You notice that the kettle will always steam up the window, a little before you pour the water for your tea. The condensation beads, then runs in slow silver lines, and the city outside becomes an impressionist blur of soft lights. Sometimes the street below hums with someone's late laughter. Sometimes it is the sigh of a bus settling into its route. These sounds are distant and benevolent. They do not demand anything of you. They are simply there, part of the architecture of the night. You have habits that are small oaths. Folding the corner of a blanket over your knee, turning the spine of a book toward you so the title is easy to see, placing a mug on the same coaster that has a tiny chip you have learned to love. A scarf you borrowed one evening from a friend, left on the banister, has softened where it brushed the wood. It reminds you of other evenings, low conversation, the kind that happens when people feel known, when sentences are not pointers but company. Those memories sit beside the present like photographs on the shelf, familiar and unforced, offering a kind of warmth that does not require explanation. The air has a steady coolness tonight, the kind you feel when humidity has eased, and the lines of the room feel clearer. The fabric of the sofa takes your shape and keeps it. The cushion under your head has a slight impression of many nights, a map of restful habit that says, you are not the first to let your shoulders loosen here. Your fingers find the same patch of worn denim on the armrest, and there is a specific comfort in that touch, soft, slightly rough, very human. You do not do anything dramatic to summon ease. You allow small repeated acts, a lamp turned down a notch, a favorite playlist set to a low hush, the curtains drawn to catch the glow of the street lamp rather than the glare of the night. There is a quiet choreography to these evenings, dim light, a soft drink in a familiar cup, the pages of a book that has been opened and closed on many nights. The room remembers your tastes, and you move within that memory. It feels like being in a house where the furniture leans into you, with patient approval. Even the little sounds, the settling pipes, the refrigerator's low murmur, the paper-thin echo from the hallway, compose themselves into a steady, unobtrusive score. You listen without needing to name what you hear. They are softer than the day and kinder in their indifference. Sometimes when you pause at the window and the city scatters itself across the glass, you sense the shape of your life all at once. There is an ease to it that does not shout. You are allowed to be quiet. You are allowed to let small rituals hold the weight of your evenings. You think of the times you have come in late from a gathering, the group that always lingers a little longer, the easy exchange of jackets and glances. Those returns to the same light breathe a gentle kind of safety into the space. The apartment holds the echo of laughter that never needed to be loud, only true. It holds the smell of a friend's cologne, left on a sweater that hangs on the chair, and the sensation is more like remembrance than claim. Repetition softens the edges of the night. Doing the familiar things asks nothing dramatic from you. There is no checklist to conquer, no performance required. You brew tea in the same kettle, steep it for the same number of quiet minutes, and when you lift the mug, steam rises in a modest column that warms the skin near your mouth. The heat is a small, private luxury. You bring the cup to your lips with the same slight sigh, and the taste is a tiny promise. Tonight will be like other nights in the best of ways. If you have friends who leave things behind, you set those things in the same place each time. Not out of necessity, but out of respect for continuity. It matters less why they left the scarf, and more that it has become a part of the room's memory. The lamp glows in a circle that keeps attention close. You watch the light catch on the ringing pages of a book, the way the paper takes on a softer tone under the bulb. The plants on the windowsill incline toward the glow with the patient curiosity of green things that live inside. Their leaves make a tiny, almost imperceptible sound when they move against one another. The sound is a private conversation with the night, and you are invited to listen, not to do. In these small ways, comfort accrues. It is not sudden. It is not dramatic. It gathers like soft lint on the hem of a coat. There is also the pleasure of small repetition that ties you to others. The D message thread. You check out of habit the photo someone sent after a night out. A table crowded with dishes and half-finished jokes becomes a gentle tether. You scroll through it the way one might open a window to let cool air in. It is soft evidence that the day included company, and so that this night welcomes the continuation of that feeling. Nothing in those images needs to be explained. You can let the presence of people linger like a faint perfume in the room, familiar and unobtrusive. You notice how the rhythm of your breathing attunes to the pace of the apartment, the city's distant breath, the kettle's exhale, the gentle creak of your chair, all conspire to slow you into the kindest way. You linger on details, the weight of a blanket when you fold it, the exact warmth of the mug when it rests in your hands, the particularness of the lamp's halo. These things are small repetitions that generate calm without asking for effort. They are quiet assurances that night is a place where things can be the same and still feel alive. In the stillness, memories settle into their corners without needing to be arranged. You allow them to sit, to be part of the room's architecture. You let the pattern of your nights be enough. There is no need to perform or to reshape yourself to fit a story. The apartment is indifferent in the best way, accepting, reliable, and composed of repeated gestures that are gentle on the shoulders. You move through the evening with a slow certainty, aware that comfort is being gathered not by labor, but by continuing. As the minutes soften, you keep to your small rituals, to the way you fold the blanket at the foot of the sofa, to the way you turn the page or set the book face down. The night is patient, and the room is full of small, quiet things that belong to you. Each repetition reinforces a sense of being at home, with minimal effort, a lived-in ease that is unforced and deep. You rest in that soft language of the evening, a language that has no demands, only familiar gestures that say you are seen, or at least held, in the ordinary way that people who know one another do. The night belongs to you for now, quietly and without hurry, and every small, repeated motion keeps that belonging intact. You come in and close the door with the same soft motion you have used for years, not because you are performing anything, but because the house has learned the cadence of you. The latch whispers, the frame sighs, and the corridor light greets you with a low, patient glow. There is no list waiting at the threshold. No urgent decision at the edge of the floor. For a while, the only thing that needs answering is the small, careful question of where to put your keys. The apartment holds its evening breath. A lamp on the bookshelf leaks a warm circle of light across spines and a scattering of postcards. One of them is bent at the corner, a landscape from a rooftop night where the city felt somehow softened by everyone there. Itaksaboirito. Low hum travels through the pipework, the same one that has known you through seasons and cheap heaters and a couple of winters. You move your jacket from the chair to the peg by the door, feeling the familiar weight and the memory stitched into the fabric where a friend spilled coffee, and then insisted it was fine. The jacket is patient, it makes no demands. You pad across the wooden floor and stand at the window for a moment, palms resting on the cool glass. Outside, the streetlight spreads itself like a slow wash, pooling on wet pavement. Rain has settled somewhere beyond the alley, a soft percussion that is steady but not sharp. It threads through the silence, a companion rhythm that sounds like someone breathing in the building below. Across the way, the neighbor's curtains glow, a rectangle of life that feels friendly, because it is ordinary and unremarkable. You smile, not because anything has changed, but because the room is exactly how you like it to be when nothing needs to be decided. The kettle waits on the counter, its metal skin still warm from earlier use. You set it on the stove and turn the dial to wake the element in a low, steady note. A scent rises, warm ceramic from the mug you always choose. Cotton faint and comforting from the dish towel, a tiny trace of lemon soap. These are the small rituals that sit in the grooves of your evenings, the ones that require no planning. You reach for the mug with a hand that knows its shape, the way the rim fits to your fingers, and the coolness of the glaze under your thumb is familiar like an old friend. There is a throw folded across the back of the couch, its edges softened by repeated use. Someone you care for made it, or maybe it was a housemate who used to live here. The memory is gentle and indistinct, like a photograph left to warm itself in the sun. The yarn has a rhythm to it, a stitch pattern that your fingers could trace if you wanted. For tonight, you let it remain folded, an invitation, unpressed. You lower into the cushions and feel fabric settle against your shoulders. The couch knows the shape of you, and the way you sink allows itself without comment. A playlist hums from the small speaker on the shelf. No urgency, a careful sequence of records that used to accompany long conversations and quiet mornings. Each track is a soft door that opens to a moment you keep without needing to explain it. There is a song that used to play at a friend's kitchen table while everyone ate leftovers and talked about trips and small rebellions. The sound is familiar in the way a face is familiar, welcoming because it remembers you. You touch the surface of the coffee table, running fingertips along the wood. Where there is a nick from the night, a lamp was overturned, and everyone laughed instead of fretting. Nearby, a ceramic bowl holds a few things you might need. A lighter with a scratch, a folded receipt, the small metal token someone left after a show because they thought you would like it. These objects sit without demand. Their presence is a quiet reassurance. A postcard leans against a stack of receipts, an image of a city skyline at dusk, the sort of evening you might choose later without having to decide now. Outside, the rain slows to a soft hush. It presses the city into a gentle focus, tightening edges into silhouettes and leaving reflections that tremble like memory. You listen to traffic far below, a slow, indifferent wash that tells you the world keeps moving without asking for your attention. The elevator dings somewhere down the hall, a polite punctuation. Pipes settle under the floor, with a warm clunk that makes the building feel like a living thing, patient and enduring. These sounds are ordinary, and they are welcome. You let your thoughts roam without steering them. They come in small, harmless fragments, an invitation you might accept next week, a joke that lives in the margin of a text thread, the way a friend folded a napkin at a dinner you all shared, and how the gesture felt like being noticed. None of these things require action tonight. They are parcels you can store on a low shelf until they have the shape of a plan. For now, you keep them soft, like the light that pools under the lamp, like the shadow that gathers along the floorboards. There is a photograph on the mantel, a strip of instant prints taken under a string of paper lanterns. Faces pressed close together in a way that says, home without needing to say it aloud. The picture is slightly faded at the edges, but the expressions within, easy and unguarded, remain clear. It is the witness of people who choose each other in small, steady ways. You look at it as if remembering a line in a poem and feel the warmth that comes from being part of a pattern that extends beyond the room. The radiator ticks in deliberate, trustworthy beats. You pull the blanket up over your knees and appreciate its weight, the way it makes the edges of the world softer. The fabric smells faintly of the cotton detergent you buy from the same shop. The scent, a memory of groceries and weekends. Your hand rests on the blanket and the texture grounds you. Woven loops and a tiny tug, where a thread escaped and was tucked back in by someone with time to pay attention. There is no pressure to decide. The evening offers only possibilities that are slow and kind. A book you might open to the chapter you enjoy, for the lines that land like a soft tide. The remote that lives under the cushion and hums with channels you could leave on low. The small act of sending a single message to a friend whose voice you haven't heard in days. But you let these things be optional ornaments to the night, not obligations. From the kitchen, the kettle gives a gentle murmur, and you pour the water into the mug, watching the steam rise and weave new shapes in the lamplight. The aroma of herb and warmth fills the space between the books and the window, an intimate, ordinary perfume. You sip, and the liquid is a small, uncomplicated comfort that tastes like a room being lived in the right way. A postcard from a friend leans against the small plant by the lamp. Their handwriting is a looped, casual curl that suggests a life spent moving through days with curiosity. You touch the corner of the card and think of the afternoon you all shared on a balcony, the city below, and the world distilled into a late lunch and soft laughter. You like that these remembrances arrive unbidden, and that they never ask for anything from you. They are like the room, accepting and steady. The night sits with you. It does not press or counsel. It simply is, a wide, quiet presence that allows the edges of the day to soften. You breathe with the slow, steady rhythm of the building, and your body answers in kind. The lamp keeps casting its low pool of light, and the world beyond the curtains glows in long, patient shapes. You are here, in a room that knows you, with objects that carry the careful history of chosen lives. For now, there is nothing to resolve. There is only the comforting fact of being exactly where you are, allowed to rest in the uncomplicated company of light and fabric and distant rain. You settle into the familiar curve of your evening, feeling the apartment already arranged around you in soft, practiced ways. The lamp on the low table throws a warm circle across the spines of books, an attentive pool of light that keeps the rest of the room gentle and forgiving. Outside, the city breathes at a distance, a slow, polite rhythm. You have learned to accompany without being pulled into it. Streetlight washes through the curtain, pale and steady, and the window glass holds a faint mirror of the room. Your silhouette, the jackets on the chair, the little stack of postcards that look like someone else's memories until you remember they are yours. The air has a certain weight you know by heart. It is the weight of a blanket folded over the arm of the sofa, the weight of worn denim on the back of a chair, the small, comforting heaviness of an object that has been used often and kept out of habit. There is a ceramic mug on the coffee table, warm to the touch. Its glaze slightly nicked where it bumped against the sink one morning and was forgiven. You notice the texture of the table under your fingertips, smooth and familiar wood, the kind that hums quietly when the radiator does something small and domestic. The sounds that live here are low, An elevator chime 2 floors over, pipe settling like an old spine, rain beginning to thread somewhere beyond the block and tapping a tender, even rhythm. You move slowly through the room in thought, following small landmarks rather than purpose. A folded shirt on the back of a chair carries the scent of a recent evening, something like citrus and the faint smoke of a long ago patio. A photograph leaned against a candle shows a kitchen table, a few glasses, the blur of smiling faces from a night that feels both near and kindly distant. These objects are soft signals that you belong here, that your nights have a shape and a memory, and that shape is gentle enough to cradle you without asking for anything. Nothing in the room demands an explanation. Everything in the room remembers you without needing words. You pay attention to the way light pools and slides. It finds the edge of a metal frame, catches a line of silver on a keyring, rests in the hollow of a mug. Shadows are not empty here. They are patient, settling into corners where a lamp does not reach, and making room for the warm surfaces that do. The rain outside grows a little clearer, a fine percussion that keeps you company without requiring response. The hum of the building is a steady undercurrent, a domestic choir that includes the small mechanical sounds you have come to understand. The muffled footsteps in the hall when someone passes, the whisper of a closet door closing in a neighboring apartment, the distant, polite life of others that respects the quiet in which you sit. Your breathing aligns with these sounds, not forced, only taking its cues. You notice the fabric of the blanket over your knees, the soft give of it where it drapes, the tiny threads that have unpicked in a corner and been allowed to slide into their own pattern. The blanket carries the warmth of many evenings. It smells faintly of cotton and the subtle tang of detergent you keep because it reminds you of home. The sofa supports you just so, its upholstery softened in the places you favor. The cushions shaped by the same evening habits repeated until they feel like gentle architecture made for you. There is a sense that the room knows your rhythm, like a house that has learned where you like to sit and how you like your light. You move your hand to the spine of a book, and the paper feels cool and familiar. The pages hold words you have visited before, their presence more companion than instruction. Nearby, a narrow shelf carries a line of records, their sleeves slightly scuffed. Their edge is a map of nights when music stretched across the apartment and people leaned into slow conversation. You can almost hear the memory of a certain low song, the way a vinyl crackle would settle beneath laughter, the kind of sound that makes the walls feel like witnesses rather than walls. There is comfort in the small domesticities left visible. A pair of glasses folded and set on a coaster. A postcard with handwriting you know, without having to read it. A small dish with a ring and a few keys. The arrangement of these things suggests chosen rhythms and chosen people. The traces of evenings spent with others who moved through the same light and left the same soft evidence of belonging. You do not need to catalog every memory. The objects exist like soft reference points, affirming the shape of your life without ceremony. As you settle, you become aware of another presence in the quiet that is not a sound but a subtle shift in the room's air. It arrives like a change in temperature, a different kind of breath that does not ask for explanation. The lamp's glow catches at a new movement, a shadow that slides carefully between sofa arm and lampstand, and you do not turn. You keep your gaze downward, feeling the presence more as a company than as something requiring attention. It is close without intruding, an easy kind of nearness that knows how to be small and unobtrusive. A soft weight presses against the blanket near your ankle, almost like an exhalation of warmth. The city sounds continue at the same level, keeping their distance, while the room rearranges itself around this quieter life. You feel the brush of fur, cool then warm, a gentle tremor of a living body settling into the shape of the space. The cat moves with the practiced confidence of someone who has learned where the softest places are. curling into a small, efficient round that fits the contour of your foot like a parenthesis. It does not demand your hand or your attention. It does not seek conversation. It simply exists in the room with you, a breathing punctuation that confirms you are not alone in the way that matters. The presence of the cat deepens the hush. Its breathing is a small, steady metronome that you feel more than hear, a private rhythm that threads itself into the other evening sounds. The fur is cool against your skin at first, then warming as contact takes shape. The fine contrast of temperatures like the memory of a held conversation. The cat shifts once, settling more fully, claws making negligible patterns in the blanket, before smoothing into stillness. A soft purr hums, low and irregular, a private engine tuned to domestic ease. You notice with that patient, affectionate attention that comes when nothing in particular is required, the small ways you and this presence share the room. Its whiskers twitch in the lamplight, its ears turn toward the window, where the rain makes its own slow music. Your hand rests on the blanket above it, not moving unless it wants to, feeling the subtle weight and the faint, little tremors beneath the fur. This is company without demand, a companion that does not speak and does not need to be tended to beyond the simplest of considerations. The cat's body contours against the blanket and finds a place to rest that has always belonged here, as if the apartment remembers to make room. Gradually, the sounds thin and soften. The rain keeps time in a way that encourages a slow unwinding, and the building's hum becomes a lullaby of domestic life, rather than a call to attention. The lamp keeps its small, observant glow, and beyond the window, the city stays distant and kind. You remain with the blanket's weight, the mug's warmth, the soft, steady presence curled at your feet, all of it composing an evening that recognizes you without a single spoken word. The room holds you both in its soft light, and the quietness feels like a promise that tonight, the night belongs to the gentleness you have built around yourself. You stand at the window for a moment because the city has a way of changing its voice at night, and you like to listen. The glass is cool under the heel of your hand, and the thin curtain moves a little where the night air finds its way through a small gap. Out there, a streetlight pulls a warm, soft circle on the pavement, and the edges of the windows across the way look like small, deliberate constellations. The sound of distant traffic is low and patient, a rhythm you know well, almost like a familiar breathing pattern beyond the walls. It is the kind of sound you can rest against because it does not expect anything from you. You pull the curtain so it hangs lightly, and the room takes a different shape. The lamplight on the bookshelf tilts across spines that have been read many times, the titles smudged at the corners where fingers have returned. A jacket lies draped over the back of a chair, its cuff softened in the place where you rest your hand. The throw on the couch has the neatness of someone who moves through their own space with care, an easy, private tending. The weight of familiar objects against you is a kind of map. You follow it with slow attention. The small bowl, with keys and a coin or two. The enamel mug cooling on the coffee table. The patch of worn wood where a laptop has sat for years. You take the seat nearest the lamp. The cushion remembers the shape of you. The fabric is a little raised where the threads have softened. It carries the faint, comforting scent of cotton and something like warm soap. When you lay your palm on the armrest, the wood is smooth and faintly warm from the lamp's light. You notice the faint sound of pipes settling in the wall, the small domestic noises that make the apartment feel like a living thing rather than an empty shell. Somewhere below, an elevator lets out a hush and then quiets again. There is a gentle rain, somewhere you cannot see, tapping in a pattern that is not urgent, like fingers tracing the roof in a private rhythm. You let the evening air move across your face. It is cooler than the room. It carries a faint green scent from the courtyard, an echo of leaves, damp earth, and the last of summer. It slips in without ceremony and pools near your shoulders, and you notice how your shoulders unhook themselves from the day's weight as if the air could hold some of it safely. There is a certain relief in this. It is not dramatic, not theatrical. It is the ordinary relief of being somewhere that knows you and has room for you without question. You turn the pages of a magazine that you have been meaning to read for a long while. The paper makes a quiet sound, slow and soft. Your attention moves gently from a photograph to a paragraph and back again, like easing into a conversation that does not require performance. There are notes tucked between pages, a small receipt, a postcard from someone who knows the exact right thing to send, the faded wristband from a summer party that had pockets of light and laughter, which you carry now like a private talisman. These things are a kind of chosen geography, reminders of people who exist in the margins of your life in ways that feel steady and true. Across the room, a lamp throws a pool of light over a stack of records. The sleeves are familiar, edges softened by being handled. You reach for one and the vinyl feels cool and weighty in your hands. The music that comes when the needle drops is not loud. It is the kind that colors the room rather than changing it, like a fabric draped over the furniture to make everything softer. It wraps the space in a familiar cadence, a thread that connects small evenings together, nights when you were doing something different but somehow the same. You listen to the quiet hum of the song and the city outside and let them blend into a single unhurried sound. A mug has cooled enough that you can hold it without thinking about heat. The ceramic is smooth and the rim has a small chip that speaks of nights that were lived rather than preserved. You cradle it for a while, feeling the weight of it in your hands. There is a comfort in those small, practical signs of belonging. The chipped mug, the sweater with a faint smell of someone you love in a friend way, the shoes by the door that are mismatched in a way that only you would tolerate. These are the quiet proofs of a life built with intention and ease. You move slowly through small tasks that have no urgency, folding a blanket, tucking the throw over your knees so the fabric settles in a familiar way, running your fingertips along the seam of a cushion, noting the tiny repair someone once made with thread that does not quite match but is loving nonetheless. These actions are simple and deliberate, like smoothing paper before writing something that will be private. Each small movement is a way of marking time gently, making the hours feel held. After a while, a small shape pads into the room. You feel it before you see it. The soft, deliberate presence of paws on the floor. A warmth that settles beside you without fanfare. It is a cat who chooses to be near you, moving with the confidence of someone who knows where the good spots are. The cat circles the base of the lamp once and then curls into a crescent against the rug, its breath steady and quiet. It does not demand your attention. Instead, it offers company in the simplest terms. A body close enough to be noticed. A weight that says you are not alone in this room. You reach down and let your fingers find the cat's back. The fur is soft and full, and the vibration beneath your palm is a low, private hum. The sound blends with the distant rain and the faint city noise. Another layer to a tapestry that is already gentle. The cat moves its head, eyes half closed, and then settles. Its presence is unremarkable in the most needed way. It has no expectations and brings no performance. You notice how your breathing eases, how the rhythm of your body aligns with the small, domestic world around you. The night is a slow, generous thing. It suggests nothing and allows everything. The pages that can remain unturned, the mail that can wait, the phone that sits quietly face down. You let go of the small frets that have a way of occupying daytime heads. You do not need to name them or fix them. The apartment holds them harmlessly, like a coat left on a peg. There is a sense of continuity here, of evenings that have come and gone and come again, each one a soft link in an unhurried chain. Outside, the rain shifts its pattern and the sound changes. A delicate percussion that moves from one tempo to another without alarm. The light from the lamp washes the room in a hue that is neither bright nor dim, but perfectly chosen. The objects around you, the jacket, the bowl of keys, the record sleeves, the chipped mug, form a constellation of small comforts. Each one is private and familiar, a quiet testimony to the life you have arranged for yourself. Not for anyone else's view, but because it fits you. You stay like this for some time, letting the city do what it does without you needing to do anything in return. The air feels earned in a way that has nothing to prove. It is the simple generosity of being permitted to exist in a place that reflects you back, with the soft edges and comfortable marks of lived-in nights. There is companionship in the quiet, in the remembered laughter folded into postcards, in the cat's steady breathing, in the light that keeps company with the dark. When you finally move, it is with a deliberate slowness. You stand, stretch, and the room accepts the motion as part of its rhythm. The lamp keeps watch while the curtain settles into a new position, and the sound of the city continues, patient and present. You take one more breath of the night air that has come in, and feel how the room is a patient, steady thing. It is a place where the night can belong to you, softly and without ceremony, where the little domestic proofs reassure with their quiet, familiar truth. You notice how the room keeps its own hush, the kind of hush that has gathered around familiar things over many small evenings. Light from the street slips under the curtains in a slow, steady line, pale and patient. It pools across the low shelf, where postcards lean, their corners softened by hands that have carried them between places. Near the lamp, the spine of a book catches a warm wash of light, and the title feels less like a call and more like a comfortable smell you recognize from other nights. There is the steady, distant cadence of the city, a low river of sound that seems content to be far away. A bus sighs at an intersection below. An elevator gives a small bell and then settles. Pipes thread quiet notes through the building, tiny creaks and sighs that sound like an old house breathing slowly. When the rain finds a roof or a metal fire escape, it taps in an irregular but kindly rhythm, an accompaniment that does not demand attention. You let it be background, like a familiar record you could name in the dark if pressed, but which you never need to put on. The textures in the room are easy to trace with your fingertips. The blanket has a soft weight where it folds, familiar from nights of reading, from a friend's jacket flung over a chair and left to soften into the furniture. The denim you wore earlier hangs over the chair back, its pockets slightly stiff, the fabric carrying the gentle memory of a walk home, the smell of rain on pavement tucked into the weave. Your mug rests on the table with the ghost of warmth fading across its ceramic curve. Nearby, the wood of the desk is smooth, where your palm has rested countless times, the surface warmed to your touch without fanfare. Light plays small games at the edges of things. The lamp glows low, deliberate, as if afraid to wake anything. Window reflections from neighboring rooms appear like faint echoes, rectangles of softness that mimic the layout of your own space. Shadows slant in ways you have come to trust. The familiar dip where the chair meets the rug. The curve of a jacket arm where it folds. None of it feels sharp. Even the angles seem to have taken time off and decided to soften. You find your thoughts following the same gentle easing. Names, exact times. The little precise knots of the day relax into broader shapes. A face you have been meaning to call becomes an impression, the warmth of their laugh more present than the order of words. A calendar entry blurs into the idea of plans, and plans fold like paper into the pocket of the night. Detail loosens its hold, and that loosening is almost a kindness. Instead of holding every small thing at full resolution, you allow shapes to hover at the edge, uncomplicated and safe. There is a small cluster of objects that carry belonging without any loud announcement. A folded card with inked handwriting sits under a ceramic bowl. A tiny sticker with colors the size of a fingernail rests on the edge of a notebook, its adhesive softened by time. A photograph in a simple frame shows a group of bodies leaning on one another in a way that reads like history, rather than explanation. These items are quiet witnesses. They do not demand story, only presence. Their arrangement on the shelf is gentle evidence of nights spent with people who leave things behind. Sweaters, jokes, the smell of another person's cologne braided into the curtains, and who also taught the room how to hold space. The air has a clean, cool hush to it, slightly edged by the memory of rain. There is a faint scent of cotton from the sheets, the crispness of linen smoothed into place. Behind that, the wood has a dry, almost sweet note where light catches the grain. When your fingers press against the cool glass of the window, the temperature of the city seeps in, not intrusive, but real. It is a coolness, like the first breath when you step outside to find the night waiting for you, unhurried and indifferent to calendars. Sounds continue to stutter in and out at the edges of perception. Someone upstairs moves in a slow, practiced rhythm, their footsteps soft on carpet. Far away, a television plays, but the voice is a wash of indistinct vowels, and the words do not make themselves important. A bicycle bell punctuates the long, patient tick of the city. Each sound is small and reliable, like the parts of a familiar song that slip in when the chorus isn't necessary. You take them in as a sequence of soft instruments rather than as important announcements. The room arranges itself around the present without fuss. You shift in the chair, and the old fabric makes a gentle sigh. The cushion molds and remembers the curve of your hips. Welcoming, unremarkable. You smooth the blanket over your knees, feeling the weight where it settles. A restful pressure that does not press. The fabric carries the warmth of many nights and the cool of a window, left slightly open. Little things, the way the zipper on the jacket catches, the small bead of water that hangs on the windowsill, remain uninsisted upon. Halfway through a pause that feels like a soft exhale, a small movement happens without much drama. The cat that belongs to the building, or perhaps to no one in particular, makes a quiet appearance. It pads in as if always meant to be there, a muffled presence that does not demand notice. The fur is a soft amalgam of grays that blend with shadow, and the paws make no sound on the rug. The cat circles once, twice, in a place that has been cleared for such things, and then settles nearby. Its breathing is a slow thing, a small meter that synchronizes with the damp hum of the radiator. There is no insistence on attention, only an offer of company, a warm weight at the periphery, a companion whose presence is a pleasant fact. You watch, the cat with the kind of soft attention that does not need to turn into observation. Its whiskers twitch at some private signal, and its eyes, reflecting the lamp, look briefly like tiny moons. It tucks its paws and folds into itself, a compact promise of not being alone. The scene is not dramatic. It is a small domestic courtesy. Two beings sharing scaled-down space that feels private and known. The cat's purring comes later, a low, irregular vibration that is felt more than heard, a frequency that slips under thought and smooths the edges. As awareness loosens, the periphery gathers details into broader textures. The postcard's colors melt into a general warmth. The book title fades into the idea of reading, which is enough. The distant bus becomes an even, patient breath. Your fingers, which were once mapping every seam and notch, lie quiet, content to rest on soft fabric and warm ceramic. The room seems to accept the slowness without comment, as if it had been waiting for this exact pitch of evening all along. On the shelf, one light blinks from the charger of a phone, a soft, patient pulse. It is a small metronome for the night, something to acknowledge and then forget. Outside, the rain continues its careful punctuation, and the city keeps its low, tolerant murmur. Inside, objects hold their places. Companions, human and feline, add their quiet notes, and the steady light of the lamp keeps the room from becoming a place that needs anything beyond itself. You let the loosened edges of the evening be enough. The names and the times and the small, sharp facts soften into the comfortable grain of this room. The night, as it sits here, is not impressive or dramatic. It is familiar, stitched together by the pieces you have chosen to keep close. The feeling is not about arriving somewhere new. It is about the recognition that the room already knows you, and that this recognition requires neither explanation nor ceremony, only the soft company of light, fabric, and the sound of rain against the world outside. Your keys make a small, familiar clink against the counter when you set them down, a sound that feels like permission. The door closes softly behind you, not quite silencing the world, but putting it at a distance that is easy to hold. You peel off your shoes with slow, habitual movements, letting the fabric of your socks catch on the wood floor, feeling the coolness where the room has been left to itself. The jacket on the back of a chair is the same one that has carried you through other evenings, folded across the back as if it has nowhere urgent to be. Light from the street drifts through the curtains in a low, patient ribbon, a strip of amber that settles across the books and the low shelf, where postcards and small objects rest like a friendly constellation. There is a small lamp on the side table, the kind with a worn shade that softens the bulb into a hush. When you touch the switch, the room inhales. The light leans in, warm and forgiving. It pulls over a stack of paperbacks, the edges of pages catching the glow, and it runs along the grain of the coffee table, where a ceramic mug cools slowly. You hold the mug for a moment, the ceramic warm from earlier tea, and you notice the scent of cotton from the sheets in the bedroom, the faint dry smell of the denim jacket hanging over the chair, the soft woody undercurrent from the book's spines. Outside, rain moves somewhere further up the block, a rhythmic whisper that threads the city into something gentler. You move the throw blanket from the arm of the sofa and let it fall over your knees. The fabric is familiar, the weight of many nights, the faint impression of where you usually fold it, the way the weave presses softly against the skin. It takes no ceremony to wrap yourself in it. The apartment is arranged in the way that years of small, thoughtful habits make rooms feel secure. Photographs tucked into frames without fanfare, a record player with a needle resting in its cradle, a small plant that leans toward the window with patient resilience. Each object is attuned to the same quiet agreement that this is your place to be still. A distant elevator chime rings out, muffled and polite, a neighbor's late return or early departure, folded into the building's slow rhythm. Pipes in the wall breathe and settle, and the radiator clicks once and then leaves everything be. These sounds are not interruptions. They are the building's way of keeping time steady and unobtrusive. You listen without needing to decide what to do with them. There is a comfort in being attuned to those small domestic noises, as if they are the punctuation of a life that has learned how to rest between sentences. You lift a photograph from the shelf, fingers tracing the edge where night once happened. A rooftop, low laughter, someone's arm slung over a friend's shoulder. There is no narration against it, no need to explain how it came to be. The soul faces in the photo occupy a quiet, mutual understanding. They are the memory of evenings shared with people who know the roots you take back to yourself, who have been present in ways that do not ask for justification. You set the picture back down, the glass cool beneath your fingertips, and let the feeling of being seen settle like a soft fabric across your shoulders. Outside, the rain shifts from a steady thread to a gentler patter, each drop rearranging the city's sounds, smoothing the edges of distant traffic. Streetlights reflect in the wet pavement, sending thin bands of gold through the curtains that sketch themselves across the ceiling. The room takes on a dust-colored hush, where shapes simplify and become kinder to the eye. The plants at the sill move, imperceptibly, toward the light that remains. The air carries the faint scent of wood polish and a touch of detergent, clean, lived in, belonging to a routine that has grown tender in its repetition. You stand at the window for a long moment, palms against the cool glass, looking out at windows across the way where other rooms glow. You do not catalog them so much as inhabit them briefly, an unspoken camaraderie with whoever has already turned in for the night and whoever is still preparing their tea. A distant laugh moves out and then away, and you find it easy to let the city be a neighbor rather than a presence that demands your attention. The night belongs to many small, ordinary things, and your space sits quietly within that map. You fold the jacket and lay it over the chair, smoothing the fabric with a thumb in a small, almost unconscious motion. The fibers hold the memory of your shoulders, the scent of the evening, a faint trace of the park bench you passed on the way home. There is an unforced ease in straightening what you left in a hurry, an act of gentle tending rather than preparation. It feels like closing a loop without fanfare, like acknowledging the end of one set of moments and the presence of another, slower one. The record player rests on its stand, and you lift the lid with care. You do not put on music. Tonight you favor the hush. But the knowledge that the record is there, ready, is like a friend in the next room, supportive, unobtrusive, available without expectation. The lamp draws shadows into friendly shapes, and a small stack of postcards tied with a ribbon sits nearby, each one a note from people whose lives are woven into yours. You do not read them again. You let the quiet assurance of their presence be enough. After a while, a soft padding sound moves across the floor, delicate and precise. It is a careful, feline kind of approach. You sense the motion before the creature appears, a measured confidence that understands the rules of nighttime human spaces. The cat, when it finally arrives, winds between your knees with the grace of something that has always known this room. It does not demand attention, it simply arranges itself into a crescent of warmth against the throw. You feel the faint pressure of its body, the subtle vibration under your palm, as its chest rises and falls in even rhythms. Its eyes close in a slow, uncomplicated trust, and you both settle into the same easy stillness. The cat's fur is a soft contrast against the coarse weave of the blanket, a small living texture that anchors the moment. You run a finger along its back, feeling the subtle shift of muscle and fur, the small heat that speaks of contentment rather than dependency. Nearby, the mug has cooled enough to leave only the promise of warmth. The lamp throws a softened halo, and the rain, now a distant drum on the roof, keeps time with the building's heart. You do not move to fill the empty spaces with action. You allow them their quiet, letting your thoughts become as gentle as the night air that slips in through a small crack in the window. There is no list to check, no performance to maintain. There is only this slow, steady collection of small comforts, the worn blanket, the low lamp, the book with its familiar spine, the postcard stack with its ribbon loose at one corner, the jacket folded with the same casual care. Each thing is an ally in a life constructed from a habitual tenderness. As the minutes unfold without urgency, your breathing finds a length that belongs to the room. You let your shoulders drop and your hands rest in your lap. The cat shifts, choosing a more comfortable angle, and a soft, contented sound ripples against the hush. Your eyes follow the way the light pools and thins, how shadows soften at the edges until objects seem to float in a gentle, forgiving glow. The city outside continues to murmur, far enough away to be companionable, close enough to remind you that you are part of a bigger, tender rhythm. There is a quiet joy in simply being permitted to sit with these things. The weight of a blanket, the presence of a friend in photograph and fur, the hum of a building at rest, and you feel a slow, steady settling spread through the room, a mutual agreement between you and the space that tonight, like many nights before, You can occupy your own small orbit without explanation. The air is warm against the skin where the blanket does not cover, and the rain's cadence is a gentle accompaniment, a soft percussion that asks nothing more than your company. You stay. You let the light and the textures and the familiar smells weave themselves into a calm pattern. There is no hurry. The city's distant lights blink and hold, and the room keeps its careful, accepting quiet. The cat breathes near your hand, and you listen to the room arrange itself around you, slow and steady, as if everything here had been waiting for this exact, unremarkable, perfect kind of evening. You let the quiet sit around you the way a familiar sweater settles across the shoulders, warm and unremarkable in the best way. The room breathes a slow, even rhythm tonight, a low hum of pipes and distant traffic that feels like a lullaby written in city sounds. You notice how the light from the street lamp slips through the curtains, a soft amber stripe across the rug, and for a few long moments you only follow that light with your eyes, tracing its slow slide over the wood floor, over the leg of a chair with a jacket draped over it, over the familiar scuff at the corner of the coffee table. Everything that usually takes attention seems to rest instead, easy and known. You move without hurry. Your hand finds the edge of the blanket folded on the back of the couch, the fabric creased the way it always is after someone sat there last week and left a shadow in the weave. The cotton is cool at first, then warms under your palm as if remembering you. You tuck it closer, the thread-soft weight reassuring. There is a mug on the low table, half full, with something cooling and comforting, the glaze matte and warm where it caught lamplight. You lift it, feeling the round ceramic press into your palm, feeling the tiny imperfections along the rim that tell you it has been held many nights like this before. You look around, and the room reads like a map of steady evenings. A stack of books leans at the edge of a shelf, their spines threaded with small notes in a handwriting that makes you smile when you see it. A friend's loose scrawl left there from a visit. A ticket stub lies in a small dish by the keys. The ink faded to a ghost of the night it came from, and you remember the low buzz of people and music that night without needing to hold on to it. A photograph on the mantel shows a group with shoulders close and heads tipped toward one another at sunset, a memory of someone's laughter captured in light. The picture is ordinary and whole and enough. You listen to the building settling. An elevator chimes 2 floors away, a polite bell that reminds you of the vertical life of the place. Pipes whisper as temperature shifts in the walls, a sigh that passes and is done. Rain taps somewhere beyond the view of your window, a fine applause that makes the city sound softer, as if the world outside wrapped itself in fabric. The streetlight beyond the curtains flickers once, steadying into a glow that seems less bright and more companionable, and you let your shoulders lower with the rhythm it suggests. You notice how the couch embraces you, how the upholstery has the soft give of nights spent here over years, how the cushions have a familiar contour, shaped by repeated rest. Your fingers find the seam of a cushion, tracing the line of stitching, appreciating the smallness of that detail, and how small things add up to safety. A faint scent of worn denim hangs from the chair against the wall, a reminder of a jacket that always lives there, during colder months, carrying the faint traces of other nights. There's a low shelf of records, their covers leaning together like neighbors on a stoop, and when you reach to straighten one, your fingertips brush a corner that has softened from touch. It feels exactly right. You think of the evenings that led you here without deciding to think about them. Soft after parties, slow walks home under umbrellas, the way a friend's shoulder felt like a steady rail on a night when the world leaned heavy. You hold those memories gently, like photographs kept in a box beneath the bed. Their edge is worn, but the image is bright and private. There is no need to sort them or make sense of them. They sit inside you like small lamps, quiet and kind. And when the room grows still, you can let that kind light do what it wants. You let the lamp on the side table take more of the room, the bulb warm and a little humbled by the evening, casting oval pools across the floor and across the spine of a book, opened face down. The lamp switch clicks softly when you touch it, a small mechanical hello, and the light seems to flatten out the corners of the room, making shadow soft and easy. The curtains move a little with the night air, a gentle ripple that makes a subtle rustle against the window frame. The sound is close and private, like a whisper between people who know each other's names. You notice, too, the ways things are arranged to hold one another. A pair of slippers sits in a patient line by the door, the left and right matching without fuss. A scarf draped over a chair is ready for the next evening when brisk air calls. A stack of postcards tied with a ribbon sits on the shelf, edges yellowed, messages folded inward. Each one a reminder of people who matter because they show up in small, persistent ways. Those reminders make the room fuller, a gentle presence that doesn't speak, but is unmistakably there. You move with the evening's pace, letting the small sounds become the room's language. The distant rumble of a late bus is steady and untroubled. A neighbor's window across the way glows briefly, a lamp pulled low, then dims. Somewhere below, shoes scuff quietly and then stop. The city keeps on, soft and slow, and you occupy your part of it without needing to do anything heroic. The ordinary becomes luxurious. You feel the cat before you see it, as if the room knew to send a warmer rhythm toward you. Its tread is a velvet hush on the rug, the tiny vibration of paws against fabric, and then it pads up beside the couch and curls into a small, deliberate crescent. It chooses a spot near your knees, not seeking anything but the closeness of being in the same room. You feel the faint heat of its body, the small measured breaths, the gentle tick of its purr, like a distant train. The cat does not demand, it simply rests, a punctuation of ease in the space between your breath and the lamp's glow. You let your hand rest near that sleepy shape, feeling the slight roughness of whiskers and the soft ripple of fur. There is a rhythm to petting that never needs explanation. Short, slow strokes that are more acknowledgement than action. The cat curves into each touch, not because it must, but because it wants a small confirmation that things are as they should be. You understand the exchange without needing words. You are both quiet company for one another, an old ritual that costs nothing and gives a lot. You sit with the lights and the small sounds and the cat's peaceful presence, aware of how stillness spreads like warm oil across whatever tension may have been living in your shoulders. The room's materials, worn fabric, smooth wood, the cool glass of the window pane, hold steady as if to say, there is room here for whatever you bring, and for whatever you do not. You let your attention drift to the subtle details, the soft creak the chair makes, the delicate patter of rain on a distant rooftop, the way your sleeve feels against the arm of the couch. Each small thing is a thread in a quiet fabric woven around you. You do not need to tidy this night into neatness. Everything that is needed is already present. The lamp, the blanket, the small light of the street beyond the curtains, the cat's steady breathing, the faint chorus of the building at rest. You let the sound of the city and the warmth in the room fold into each other. A layered hush that is neither loud nor absent. It is enough to be here, in this arrangement of light and texture and remembered laughter. You notice the way your thoughts slow without being pushed, how sentences inside your mind lose their sharp edges and settle like soft ink. You stay with the soft geometry of the room, the lamplight painting familiar shapes, the rain writing a slow score on the window, the cat's presence a small, constant punctuation. Stillness moves through the space without hurry, patient as a tide. You welcome the ease of being in a place that expects nothing and gives everything that matters. A warm lamp, a table that remembers coffee rings, the invisible outline of chosen company, kept alive by postcards and laughter, and a jacket left on a chair. Here, the night belongs to you in the quietest sense, a gentle permission to just be. You move more slowly tonight, as if the room itself has suggested smallness. The lamp beside the couch spills a rounded pool of light that softens the edges of everything it touches. The jacket draped over the chair is familiar in its slump, the cloth remembering the shape of your shoulders. You reach for the ceramic mug with the same hand you have used for years, feeling the warmth settle into your palm, like a quiet promise. The kitchen is a few steps away, and then back again. A gentle loop you let yourself take without hurry. The city beyond the curtains keeps its distance. A distant car rolls like a soft percussion under the glass. A neighbor's window glows then dims. Rain taps somewhere unseen, a rhythm you could count if you wanted to, but you don't. You let it become part of the room's breath, another layer of sound that lets you reduce your own. Pipes in the wall sigh and settle. An elevator chime comes up from below, a small bell that folds back into the air. Each sound is a gentle punctuation to the slow movements you make. You fold a sweater in a way that has become private and precise over many evenings. The movements of your hands are deliberate, but getting smaller. Collar to hem, sleeve to underarm, the familiar crease near the cuff. The fabric tells you what to do. Your fingers follow the line of the seam, as if remembering an old conversation. There is comfort in the repetition, in the way your body knows the next tiny motion, without needing a decision. You smooth the sweater and tuck it neatly into a drawer that has held things for years, each item arranged with the quiet care of chosen habits. There are traces of other nights on the shelf. A postcard with a smudged stamp from someone who knows your favorite joke. A paperback with a dog-eared page that you promised to reread one day. A mug from a queer volunteer night that never left the rotation. These objects sit where they do because they fit. They are the soft evidence of a life built alongside other lives that made room for you. You look at them and then away, letting the recognition pass through, like heat through your fingertips rather than demanding anything from you. You stand by the window and press the pad of your thumb to the cool glass, feeling the slight give of the frame under your hand. The streetlight leaks through the curtain in a line that lights the dust motes in slow, lazy arcs. You let your shoulders drop, noticing how small changes in posture unspool tension. The jacket on the chair catches your eye, the edge folded over the back, the scent of detergent and the faintest hint of the night air. You pick it up and fold it into a careful, smaller movement, as if folding the city into the room for just a moment. When you take a seat, the cushion yields in a familiar way, a soft surrender. You ease back and find the blanket by habit, draping it across your knees. The fabric is worn in the right places, the frayed edge softened by repeated touch. You tuck your toes under the edge, adjusting the weight until it feels like a small, steady pressure against your skin. Your hands rest there, palms down, following the pattern of the weave without thinking. Each touch is a miniature action, contained and soft. Your phone rests face down on the coffee table. The light from the lamp pools around it without reflection. You notice a message bubble you glanced at earlier and decide to let it wait. There is no need for it now. Instead, you open the book by the lamp, turning a page with a gesture that grows ever more contained. Your thumb slides along the paper as if testing the texture, the small sound of the page fluttering, adding to the room's hush. You follow a sentence with your eyes and then let your gaze wander to the window, to the city, to the familiar line of the buildings across the way. The movement of your eyes is like a soft nod, an acknowledgement of presence without demand. And halfway through the chapter of the book, a small rustle in the doorway catches your attention. Not because it needs to, but because the room has room for it. A cat slips in, silent as thought, a shadow softened by the rug. It moves with the same quiet deliberation you are practicing, pads careful and deliberate. You let your body shrink inward a fraction so as not to disturb the rhythm of its steps. The cat pauses, takes in the light and the scent of denim and wood, and then weaves closer, choosing a place near your feet that feels as though it has always been reserved. The animal settles with a small thump that barely disturbs the blanket. You feel the pulse of its tiny frame against your ankle, a warmth that is discreet and steady. You do not reach to disturb it. Instead, you let your hand rest where it is and notice the temperature of your skin where it touches the wool. The cat's breathing is slow and even, a faint vibration that matches the gentle cadence of the room. Its presence is not a performance. It simply exists beside you, a quiet companion who wants nothing more than the permission to be near. Your movements grow smaller still. Fingers curl around the book at the smallest angle. You shift the blanket an inch and then stop, satisfied. The lamplight finds a way to trace the line of your knuckles, catching the thin, pale scars that have their own stories. You don't tell aloud. You allow your eyes to follow the light instead of the thoughts that like to tether you. A postcard leans against a mug, the ink smudged slightly where someone once rested a damp hand. The smallness of such details fills the room with an intimate map of who you move alongside. Outside, the rain becomes unhurried, the sound less like percussion and more like a soft background cloth. Inside, you fold the last movement into the previous one, a succession of tiny completions that do not announce themselves. Your shoulders lower a little more. The cadence of your breath finds a steady, uncomplicated rhythm that requires no record. You notice how much of the world can be included in a single small gesture. A hand tucking a blanket, a book turned carefully, the way you angle the lamp so it doesn't glare. Each act is a small, deliberate permission to be exactly where you are. The cat shifts, nudging your ankle with a gentle insistence, not asking but suggesting a closer closeness. You move your toes, and it reshapes its posture to fit. You let your hand rest against the rug, feeling the nap catch at your fingertips, your touch reduced to less than a reach. The lamp throws an oval of light that seems to make a little island of the sofa, and you exist within it, a set of tiny motions that sustain you without spectacle. You do not need to do anything grand. The room rewards the smallness. The night keeps its distance and its kindness. The objects around you, worn denim, a chipped mug, a postcard with a corner folded, are quiet witnesses to a life lived with gentle attention. Movement becomes a whisper of intention rather than a statement. Breath and the soft weight of the cat at your feet become the evening's most honest sounds. There is a warmth that does not demand reply, a familiarity that asks only to be held in place. You let your hands rest, the last motions of the night minimal and intimate. The lamp glows, the rain continues like a tender insistence, and the apartment holds you in a small, steady way that feels like home. The room feels like a pause you stepped into on purpose. A low lamp throws a gentle circle across the bookshelf, and the spines of novels that have lived here for years, their edges softened by repeated fingers. A streetlight beyond the curtains washes the wall in a slow, honeyed glow, and the light moves only when a cloud slides across the moon, as if the night is breathing quietly too. You let your shoulders loosen into the familiar contour of the sofa, letting the fabric remember where you like to rest. The denim jacket thrown over the chair keeps the shape of you in its shoulders. Its cuff still holds the faint scent of the last time you wore it out. The mix of coffee and night air, the soft perfume of a friend who always hugged a little longer at the door. That scent blends with the cotton of the throw, and the two together feel like a small map of evenings you have chosen to keep. There is a very small soundtrack to this room. The building hums in a patient key, Pipes settling, a distant elevator that leaves a tiny bell like an exhale, tires whispering on the street far below. Rain taps somewhere unseen, a delicate applause that lands on the window and slides into the gutters. The sound is not sudden, it does not insist. It is a companion that stays on the edge of hearing, a steady, soft presence you do not have to answer. Your fingertips find the rim of the mug by your side. Warm ceramic meets skin. The tea has cooled to a comfortable warmth, the way liquid does when given time to become part of the room rather than a task to finish. You hold it for a moment, enjoying the weight, the lived-in warmth, the faint citrus note, and the memory of a friend passing the kettle across their own kitchen counter 2 nights ago. Light makes small things visible in comforting ways. Dust motes hang and sway in the lamp's circle like tiny, slow planets. On the shelf, a photograph sits in a frame with a scuffed edge, a gathered evening, faces smiling with the ease of people who meet each other without pretense. The picture is not an explanation. It simply confirms that there are people with whom you share plates and stories, and the easy ritual of folding blankets together. Nearby, a small bowl holds keys, a couple of ticket stubs, and a safety pin that once mended a favorite shirt mid-celebration. These objects speak in the quiet language of habitual belonging, the way someone leaves a jacket on a chair, the way mugs collect in the sink until someone rinses them, because dinner lingered late into laughter. Textures here are soft and known. The sofa has a worn resilience, a fabric that remembers the weight of you and makes room without fuss. Your knee brushes against a folded blanket, thick, wool soft, slightly warm from the day's sun that nested in it. The coffee table is smooth wood, its edge sanded by 1,000 small rests of palm and paperback. You trace that edge with a thumb and feel the subtle groove where a coaster has always been. There is a coolness where glass touches wood, where the window pane meets your fingertip when you lean toward it, and that contrast is steadying. It is simple and exact, like the small comforts you stop noticing until you reach for them. The reassuring click of the lamp switch, the soft give of the cushion, the stable rhythm of the building around you. You let your senses move without hurry. Smells come in low, friendly notes. Cotton sheets that still carry the faint scent of detergent. The cedar from the coat rack that has held someone's jacket for seasons. The quiet, bright clean of the tea. There is a hint of rain on the air, the fresh, cool note that polishes the city and makes everything seem a little closer. These scents are like pages of a familiar book, each one turning without urgency and inviting you to linger. Memory lives in small domestic motions. You rest your head for a moment against the arm of the sofa and think of Saturday nights that began with a shared playlist and ended with reluctant goodbyes. You remember a low table crowded with mismatched plates, the sound of laughter without stage or spotlight, the ease of leaning into someone who knows you well enough to bring an extra blanket. There is no pressure to explain or perform those memories. They sit like books on the shelf, available and restful. You open a small journal tucked beneath the cushion and slide a hand along its cover, thinking of notes scrawled in the margins. Addresses of places that have been home for a while, a recipe passed along by someone who knows the exact way you like lemon in your baking, a scrawled note about meeting later that week that was never urgent enough to be pinned. The phone glows faintly on the table, notifications muffled and set aside. Messages live there like small keystones of connection. A picture sent of a lamp in a friend's apartment, a line about plans being soft and not yet decided, an emoji that has become a shorthand for an inside joke. These gestures are gentle scaffolding. They say slowly that you are remembered. You move the phone a little closer and then let it rest. You do not need to respond now. The room already contains enough company. Around the midpoint of the evening, a slight, familiar movement crosses the floor. A quiet cat pads into the light with the kind of steady curiosity that does not demand attention. Its steps are measured but unhurried, like the way you walk when you leave a party too early and savor the emptiness. The cat chooses a spot beside your knee, curls into a small, compact shape, and tucks its tail around its paws. There is no performance in this arrival. The cat is simply present, an old friend who understands how to be still without imposing. You feel the faint pressure of its body against your leg, and the little vibration of a purr that seems to come from the wooden floor more than the animal itself. A warm, low hum that smooths into the room's other sounds. The cat's fur is cool at first, then warming beneath your hand. When you lay your palm gently across its back, its body makes a quiet, even reply. There is a softness to the texture that mirrors the blanket at your side, the same gentle ease, the same unspoken permission to be exactly where you are. It is a small, steady companionship, the kind that knows when to watch and when to turn away. The cat's breathing is slow and reliable, and in the spaces between each breath, the room feels more settled. Outside, the city keeps its distant rhythm. Tires find their way around corners. A late train breathes. The rain softens and then thickens. A rhythmic hush that turns the world into a private movement. The lamp's light slices across the table, touching the cracks in the wood, like a map of all the moments that have made this space yours. You notice the way the light catches the curve of a mug, the shadow that the photograph makes on the wall, the small ring left by the glass on the table. These are tiny signposts of long familiarity, markers that say, you have been here before, and you will return without fuss. Notice how your breath settles into the room's timing. Each inhalation follows the soft pattern of the building's sounds. Each exhalation releases a little more of the day's residue. There is no pressure to rearrange your life or to plan the next thing. Tonight is simply the slow accretion of quiet minutes. Pages turning, a cat shifting in its sleep, rain tidying the air. The room holds you with the ease of objects that are used often and liked deeply. Chosen family photos keep watch from the shelf, without demand. A scarf draped over a lamppost remembers a hand that once looped it there. A pair of shoes by the door suggests plans that can wait. You stay here, companionable and unhurried, letting the soft sounds and gentle textures braid themselves into a steady comfort. The city hum is distant, a companion at the margin. Inside, all is as it should be. A low light, a warm mug, cooling in your hands, a cat whose presence needs nothing from you, and the smell of cotton and wood that wraps around each quiet moment. There is an ease in being in the room with these things, an ease that feels like recognition, like returning to a place that has always known the shape of you. You notice how the light from the street finds its way through the curtain, a soft, honeyed smear that colors the room the way a familiar record colors a quiet evening. The lamp on the low shelf hums in its own, small way, and its pool of warmth rests across the spines of books and the edge of a mug that still holds the faint imprint of your thumb. Everything feels like it has been here long enough to be patient with you. The jacket tossed over the back of the chair with a frayed cuff. The pair of worn denim folded where you left them. A little stack of postcards from people who know your handwriting. The apartment breathes around you in low, domestic rhythms. There is a gentle humidity in the air, the kind that softens surfaces. The wood of the coffee table, the fabric of the couch, the thin cotton of the blanket you pulled halfway up an ankle. Earlier in the evening, you sense textures more than you name them. The blanket has the slight weight of use, a memory of other nights pressed into its fibers. When you touch the arm of the couch, the upholstery answers with a muted give, the way a place that has held conversation and silence does. Your fingertips trail along the cool glass of the window. The pane is slightly damp, where a stray breath met it and left a delicate mist. Outside, rain taps somewhere farther down the block. a tiny, irregular percussion that never quite insists on being heard. Movement in the building is far and polite. An elevator chime somewhere between floors, the faint scrape of someone else's shoes on stairs, pipes settling with an old house sigh. Traffic is a distant, softened line. There is no urgency to these sounds. They are the city reciting its calm parts, the small proofs that you are not alone, but not observed. The window reflects a neighbor's kitchen light for a moment, then gives it back as a square of amber. The street lamp throws long, kind shadows that flatten the room into known shapes. The arc of the lamp, the curve of the chair, the slouch of a jacket. They make everything readable in a gentle way. Your attention moves like a slow hand over familiar surfaces. The mug, cool now, holds the memory of heat. The pages of a book are slightly bent at the corners where you pause to keep your place. A photograph in a simple frame sits near the lamp. A group of faces caught laughing at the edge of a summer night, their arms thrown easily over one another. Looking at it is like settling into an old, comfortable conversation without the need for words. The apartment itself is a chosen map, lines and marks that point to evenings like this. Supper left, slowly on the stove, a candle long since burned down to a pool of wax, a playlist that has wound into an instrumental track you almost no longer notice but appreciate. Air moves in small currents. When the door closes softly somewhere in the hall, it changes the pressure in the room, and a faint scent of rain rides the next breath in. Wet stone and the greenness of city trees. The blanket settles with a soft rustle. If you tilt your head, you can feel the coolness near the window and the warmth near the lamp, as if the room keeps two temperatures to suit different inclinations of rest. Your breathing lengthens without demand, matching the quiet measures of the house. Nothing asks for explanation, nothing expects performance. Familiarity here is warm and unassuming. A small ceramic plate on the counter bears a smear of olive oil, where you once warmed a piece of bread. A folded pair of socks has soft indents from where they waited for the next morning. Objects are not trophies. They are companions in a life paced for gentleness. Chosen family traces are like that. Shared recipes scribbled on napkins, a key left under a plant pot, a message scrawled on the inside of a mailbox that makes you smile when you find it. Those marks insist on nothing. They are quiet confirmations that belonging need not be loud. Time feels porous. Minutes move with no pressure, and you notice the small changes. The lamp's glow deepening as the bulb warms, the footsteps in the stairwell fading into a memory. Your attention tends to the small and steady things. The way the blanket's edge presses against your shin, the faint vibration of the radiator when it cycles, the whisper of rain moving along the sill. Each detail is a soft anchor, gentle enough to hold without burdening. You do not catalog feelings, only let them be present like the room itself, unforced and whole. A quiet presence arrives without fanfare. A cat appears from under the bed as if conjured from the evening's hush, moving in close to the place where you rest. It does not demand attention. It simply finds a hollow in the blanket and settles, a warm weight that is both ordinary and intimate. The cat's breathing syncs in an unremarked way with the rhythm of the room. There is a small, reassuring purr, a sound that sits under everything else like soft bass in a familiar song. You feel its warmth against your calf, the gentle shape of a living thing, content to share space without asking for anything in return. The cat's fur has that lived-in softness that suggests many other nights like this. Sometimes the animal shifts, rearranges its limbs, then settles again, and the motion becomes another quiet punctuation in the evening. It stretches, then curls, and the blanket yields. You notice the faint scent of wood and laundry on the cat, a soft domestic perfume that fits the apartment's palette. It is presence without pretense, and that is what you need right now. A companion that mirrors the room's permission to be still. Your thoughts thrum with small, unimportant things. The book you might return to, the toast you will make for breakfast, the playlist you will let loop until it becomes part of the walls. They are like quiet notes in a lullaby, recurring and pleasant. The edges of attention soften. You notice fewer distinctions between inner and outer. The sound of rain and the feel of the blanket become part of the same gentle fabric. This is not about arriving at a destination. It is about recognizing that the room holds you with a habitual kindness, the kind that comes from many ordinary nights, stacked one after another. You let attention drift without resistance. Sometimes it rests on the photograph, sometimes on the cat's paw flexing, sometimes on the faint reflection of neighbor windows, catching a different color of streetlight. Each object, each sound, offers a small invitation to linger. The language of the apartment, soft lamplight, worn fabric, distant city hum, speaks in a tone you have come to understand. It asks nothing. It simply is. Later, the rain eases and the city exhales. The apartment holds its warmth like a slow lamp, left on low, and you and the cat remain companionable in that gentle light. There is a particular kind of peace in nights that remember you. The room has your shape already traced into it. Your awareness becomes more porous, less intent. Thoughts fold into each other like pages closing one by one. The edges of the evening blur into a soft, continuous surface, and you rest in the uncomplicated knowledge that being here is enough. You come in slow, with keys finding their usual place. On the dish by the door, the motion already familiar, like a small ritual that needs no thought. You notice the way the hallway light throws a warm rectangle across the floor. How the lamp by the couch carries a soft edge tonight. How the street beyond the curtains hums in a low, polite way that lets you know it is still alive and also kindly distant. You drop your bag on the chair with the denim jacket that has lived there for a while. The fabric softened at the elbows, and you let your shoulders relax a half breath more than you expected. You let this room be exactly what it is, a private city room that remembers you. You stand for a moment by the windows, palms resting on the cool glass, noticing the little world pressed against the panes. You can see the pale reflection of lamplight and a neighbor's faint glow, a sliver of someone else awake in another apartment, and you feel an uncomplicated kinship with those small, unremarked lights. You feel allowed to watch without explanation, allowed to exist in the circle of muted illumination. You listen for the raw edges of the night, the distant brake of a bus, a faint elevator chime that slides up the shaft and then away, a neighbor's steps that soften as they pass. You breathe and the air tastes like late evening, cool, carrying the suggestion of rain and the soft, comforting scent of cotton and well-worn leather from the jacket on the chair. You move through the room with slow attention, fingers trailing along the worn wood of the bookshelf, as if greeting an old friend. You notice the books whose spines have been thumbed more than once, the postcards tucked between chapters like memories folded into paper, the small ceramic bowl holding keys and a couple of pins that mean more than they might to anyone else. You set down your things and the sound is muffled by the rug, its faded threads remembering, quieter footsteps. You make a cup of something warm, and the kettle's whistle becomes a gentle inclusion in the evening's chorus. You hold the mug and feel the heat spread across your palms, a steady smallness that settles you back into yourself. You ease onto the couch and let the cushions shape themselves around you. You draw a blanket up to your knees, its weight familiar and reassuring, like the comfort of having spent many nights within the same small constellation of objects. You rest your chin on your hand and watch how the light pools across the coffee table, where a few things sit arranged with the casual precision of a space lived in. by people who know each other's rhythms, even if they are not all present. You think of messages on your phone that can wait until morning, of the text from someone who checked in without needing an answer, and you allow that kindness to sit beside you without asking for anything in return. You notice the rain now, a soft presence that wasn't there a moment ago, tapping at the window like a gentle hand. You listen to the way it patterns itself across the glass and ledge, a quiet punctuation that makes the room feel both contained and open at once. You feel the coolness near the edges where the window meets the city, and the warmth where the lamp paints familiar shadows. You let your fingers find the lamp's pull, not to change the light, but to feel its texture, to connect with the slow, ordinary things that hold you. You run your thumb along the rim of the mug, ceramic smooth against skin, the small friction grounding. A laugh from earlier in the evening lingers in your chest like a soft echo, the kind that does not need replay to exist. You let the memory settle around you like a shared blanket, the kind you and the people you call family have known across many nights. You think of the flat surface where someone once left their jacket, the small scuff on the armrest that marks another person's visit, the playlist that seems to have a memory of its own, and that you sometimes let run quietly in the background like a companion who does not need to speak. You cherish these traces not because they define you, but because they are tender evidence that you have been noticed and included in unpressured ways. You feel the texture of the blanket against your knees, the way its weave gives and settles, and you appreciate how the couch supports you without fuss. You close your eyes long enough to map the room by sound, distant traffic holding a steady low note, pipes settling like a contented sigh, the rain shifting from scattered to steady, the building's quiet life humming underneath it all. You let those sounds be near enough to register and far enough not to intrude, a slow percussion that matches the tempo of breathing when you are simply allowed to be. A small movement gathers near your feet, the gentlest presence, unexpected and always welcome. You look down without urgency and find the cat that has adopted this space as often as you have adopted it. It pads across the rug and chooses a place close enough to share warmth, but not so close as to demand. You watch it arrange itself into a neat, unassuming coil, its fur folding into the fringe of the blanket. You recognize the balance it offers, independence paired with quiet companionship, and you feel seen in a way that is companionable and unintrusive. Its breathing settles into the room's rhythm, and you accept the unspoken accord without naming it. You watch the cat's whiskers catch the light, small motions that add texture rather than distraction. You notice the faint scent of rain on its fur, an echo of the damp window air, and you appreciate how its presence feels, like part of the night's furniture. You imagine the way it will lift its head now and then, as if checking that the world remains in order, and you find comfort in being quietly checked on. You let your hand rest nearby without intruding, aware of the warm pulse of another life and the uncomplicated reassurance that comes with it. Minutes unfold without counting. Time moves like a low tide, returning and receding without urgency. You think of the small domestic acts that make this city room a home, the mug drying on the counter, the shoes lined by the door, the postcard leaning against a photograph on the shelf. These things feel right because they reflect a life shaped toward comfort and honesty. You hold the understanding that belonging is not always loud or declared. Sometimes it is the simple approval of your own room and the presence of others who meet you in small, steady ways. You fold your hands in your lap, feeling the blanket's weight at your knees and the cool suggestion of glass behind the curtain. You notice how light bends in the window, how reflections layer on reflections, how the city continues its soft, distant breathing. You allow the ease of being in a place where explanations are unnecessary to settle over you like a warm cloth, gentle and uninsistent. You stay with that feeling, with the cat's contented presence and the rain's patient applause against the panes. and you let the night hold you without expectation or demand, simply and exactly as you are. You are in the room you have lived into, the way a favorite sweater wears to the shape of the shoulders. The lamp beside the couch spills a slow, generous circle of light that keeps the corners gentle. Outside, the city keeps to itself, the street lamp casting pale gold through the curtains and into the soft pile of a rug you cross without thinking. The evening has settled around the place like an old friend who knows your rhythms and does not ask for anything in return. The apartment smells like quiet things, cotton from the sheets that were turned down earlier, the faint wood scent of a table polished once this week, the cool breath of the window, glass against the sill. Your fingertips find the smooth edge of a mug that has always settled into the same spot on the table. It is the kind of object that knows you, a chip near the handle that caught a laugh and a clumsy hand years ago and stayed, a small imperfection that belongs in the story of the room. There is a jacket draped over a chair, sleeves folded in the way you do when you expect to reach for it again. On the bookshelf, a collection of paperbacks with soft-spined corners leans like a quiet congregation. The titles are familiar, the margins dog-eared in places that matter to you. A postcard from a friend rests between two volumes, its edges softened by having been read and reread. These are the objects that keep you company without conversation. They are the passed-on warmth of evenings spent with chosen people who arrive in your life like reliable constellations. A distant elevator notes the hour with the tiniest of chimes, a sound that seems to say that others are moving at their own pace. Pipes settle in the walls, offering a low, homey language of expansion and release. Rain taps somewhere beyond the roof, a patient percussion that makes the glass sing quietly and draws a slow line of reflection down the window. It is the kind of rain that does not demand attention, only that the world be slightly softer because of it. You settle more fully into the couch, finding the familiar dip that matches the curve of your shoulders. The fabric is worn in all the best places, the texture of evenings spent reading on its arm, of nights when someone else's hand briefly lived there, now a comfortable memory of proximity rather than a prescription for feeling. Your leg stretches out to the rug, toes finding the warm point where the floorboard is smoothed by years of steps. A blanket lies folded nearby, a domestic softness that waits with patience rather than urgency. Light from a neighbor's window throws a thin rectangle of pale blue across the far wall. It looks like a painting you half remember seeing in a gallery you went to, with someone who laughed easily at small things. That laugh lives in the architecture of the room in a small, secret way. It is not loud, it does not interfere. It simply shapes the mood, an ease that has been earned and quietly kept. Your phone rests face down on the table, a dark calm among the warm objects. Earlier, a message bubble glowed briefly and then settled. The echo of the evening's conversations hangs like a soft cord. There was a time when nights like this felt fragile, as if any small thing might knock them askew. Now, there is an assumption that the night belongs to you, if only because you have learned how to hold it gently. The certainty is not loud. It is the low hum of a space that fits. At the edge of your vision, the lamplight draws shadows that are recognizably yours. One shadow is an old photograph in a frame, a shared face laughing at a ridiculous joke. The edges softened as if by the same light. There is no story to tell about it tonight. The memory is there simply as a warm shape, a reminder of kindness that came and stayed long enough to leave its trace. The room allows those traces without demanding narrative. Sound settles into a rhythm that matches the furniture, the hum of the building, the rain, a far-off tire on wet pavement. Occasionally the town offers soft punctuation, a door closing 2 floors down, the distant voice of a radio muffled by distance. These are the background notes that say, you are not the only slow thing at this hour. They also say you're not alone in the universe of small, tender routines. A small, patient rhythm comes from the chair where you left your denim jacket. The fabric remembers the shape of your shoulders and offers it back when you touch it. The memory in the weave of nights when you walked home under a different sky, of laughter that lingered in pockets, does not prescribe any feeling, only invites a familiar comfort that you accept without permission. The room responds with a subtle warmth, as if the air itself approves of the quiet. You reach for the blanket and let it lay across your legs. The texture is a slow, encompassing softness, like the hush after a good joke, like the pause between two pieces of music where everything belongs. The weight of it is precise, enough to be grounding, not enough to hold. Fingers find the familiar seam, tracing the tiny imperfections that make home honest. After a while, a quiet arrival slides across the floor and pauses by your knee. A small body, velvet pawed and deliberate, climbs up without fanfare and coils into a warm donut against the blanket. The cat has always been the kind of presence that appears when the room is ready, not when it is demanded. It settles with a slow, contented rhythm that matches the room's heartbeat and offers a low vibration that you both notice and do not need to name. The cat's fur smells faintly of laundry and rain, a tiny echo of the world beyond the window brought close. You let your hand rest on the soft arc of the cat's back. The touch is light, a mutual exchange of calm. The purr is a gentle metronome, the kind that does not dictate attention but rewards it. It does not ask anything more of you than your presence, and your presence is everything it needs. The room seems to adjust to include this small life without any change of plan, as if it had been waiting to be complete in this particular way. Time softens. Sentences of thought shorten and round at the edges. Each small sound is a detail you can track without following. The city's distant lights blink slowly, indifferent and reassuring. The lamp keeps its light on the pages of a closed book. The rain composes a steady, delicate counterpoint that keeps the evening steady. There is a sense of continuity in the air, a knowing that tonight is another thread in a fabric you have been weaving for years. Chosen faces, small rituals, the careful placement of objects that mean something to you and only you. These are the stitches. They do not demand definition, only recognition. You notice them and let them be. Your posture eases a fraction more. Shoulders lower. Thoughts become softer shapes, like paper lanterns dimming as they float away. The room holds the very ordinary wonder of being allowed to exist exactly as you are. No performance required. It is not a triumphant feeling. It is simply true, like the way a lamp hums when it is plugged in, and the way a kettle makes a tiny sound before it decides to boil. The cat's breathing matches the slow cadence of the room. Your hand rests on the blanket, on the familiar seam, on the small warm place where fur meets fabric. Outside, rain continues its patient work, polishing the streets in a soft, unhurried way. Inside, the light on the shelf softens, the shadows rounding their edges until everything feels made for gentleness. You allow the night to be exactly what it is, a collection of small, safe things. No demand for explanation, no need for performing a role. Just the quiet, companionable fact of a life that has found its way to a comfortable arrangement with itself. The city hums, the lamp breathes light, the cat purrs, the blanket holds. The room keeps its promises, one after another, until everything unravels into a comfortable, almost invisible rest.